Waffles-SMTN.
How's it going, everybody, and welcome to Shin Megami Tensei Royal Network, Link 164. I am your host, Spencer Presley, and joining me for this red word rhyming licious podcast is Waffles.
Hello.
It's been so long you forgot that your intro means you have to introduce yourself, so I'm glad we're getting the dust out of the cogs.
Yeah.
So Waffles, it's been a long time. I'm doing my best right now not to start singing that one song that starts with "It's been a while," mainly because I forget who sings it. But you've been living your best life in Eorzea, correct?
Yep.
And I told myself the only way to drag you out of the depths of Square Enix's claws is to get you an early copy of Persona 5 Royal, which thankfully somehow worked. So we are here on the cusp, which, by the way, this is your first time having a game early before release, right?
I think so.
Because I remember I've given you guys codes before from publishers, but it's usually been like after the fact. Like I remember I did it with like dancing and whatnot. But so this is your first time having a game before it's actually out. How does it feel? And more so, is it weird like when you're playing something and you know people that you know would like to play it, but they're not playing it because they just can't yet?
Yeah. I had a couple friends like see on my PSN status that I was playing, and they're like, "How are you playing Royal?"
Oh, did people actually hit you up?
Yeah.
That's funny. I had, do you remember Torin?
Yeah.
I had Torin, he's gone through like almost like the stages of like grief for Royal of like 2 weeks ago. He's like, should I get the game? I don't know. I think I might. I don't know. Do I want it? I don't know. I'm not really that hyped for it or whatever. To like me getting it and going like, what the fuck? How'd you get the game? To like now that I'm playing it and he sees that you're also playing it and he's just sitting there watching the like countdown clock for the pre-order thing. He's like, let me play this game.
Oh my god.
Because poor Torin, who's listening to this, he got the worst brunt of it as a movie theater employee in all of this mess. As anyone knows, not a good time to be an employee at a movie theater. So shout out to Torin who's listening to this.
Yeah.
So a nice 100-hour RPG will be a good way to kill time for him. I gotta say though, I've been thinking about making a video for this, but I don't know about you. Because I know like this is not really fair with like how much free time I had when I had my day job compared to how much free time you normally have, Waffles. When all of this kind of started and my work told me, hey, just stay from home. Like I'm still getting paid, but I'm just not working. Taking that thing out of me going to work, it has made me so unproductive. It's really weird. Like, I've been doing really good at, like, playing Persona 5 and stuff for, like, coverage and whatnot, but when it comes down to, hey, I should, like, sit down and write something, or, like, hey, I thought of some ideas for, like, videos and stuff, I've just had no motivation. It's really weird. Like, have you had that in terms of, like, when you find yourself having so much free time, you're not really motivated to do anything?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Like, what do you do for that? Because I've had a couple of friends hit me up for that as well. Like, my biggest thing I found is helping is, like, giving myself goals every day. Of, like, every day give myself one goal to do outside of the house and also another goal to do, like, whether it be, like, get to this point in my game or, like, something I can do inside and outside.
Yeah, I think setting goals is good. I need to do it more, to be honest.
That's why we're here. I've tricked you into thinking this is a podcast. It's actually a group therapy session.
Oh, thank God.
Actually, I don't know if this is a weird personal question to ask you, but as someone who did go to group and stuff, what is like the alternative for that been? Does everyone just do it online now, or is everyone just kind of shit out of luck?
We have teleconference. Is that the word? Video.
Yeah.
We can do video calls. So yeah.
Has that been like? Oh, I mean, honestly, I think it's weird when I've been listening to shows and they don't talk about everything kind of going on right now. Because, like, to just kind of ignore and act like nothing's really kind of changed is really odd. Like, for me, especially, I've not had it hit me that bad, but another reason I wasn't as productive as I'd like to be over the last week, since I did last week's podcast up to now, I got sick, actually, a day after recording, which was a Saturday, and I had a couple of like symptoms similar to what people are having with like the coronavirus, and thankfully I just had, this is really weird to describe it, I thought I had sore throat, like worst case scenario, obviously not that, but I was thinking, okay, best case scenario I have a sore throat, but then it didn't really go away after a day or two. I had a sore on the back of my tongue, which I didn't even know you could get sores on your tongue. Yes, you can. Very painful and not good for talking.
Huh.
But like stuff like that of like when I started like having like different like symptoms from when I was sick, I was like, wow, I'm like a lot more worried about this than normally because just the way everything sort of is. So it's like, and I think everyone's headspace is just kind of weird right now.
Right.
But enough about the world being a terrible, terrible mess, because one of the things I did want to say before I went on this big rant about how terrible I am at being productive is originally, and I don't know if I ever talked to you about this, do you remember in December of last year when Royal got announced? And we were like, what the fuck are they thinking? They want to release at the end of the busiest month in games. Like, at the time when it was announced in December, Royal was going to be coming out after Final Fantasy originally, and before, like, Cyberpunk and, like, Resident Evil and a bunch of other big games that were happening. And now, which is so crazy to think it's only been 3 months since that announcement happened, now I feel like Royal, obviously the world's not in the best state right now, this is the best time for a game like Persona 5 to come out. Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Just like a big game where like not a lot of people, like, if you're interested in this kind of a game, I think this, like, the world being so weird, it's going to attract a lot more people to check it out, even if they originally weren't. Like, obviously, if you liked Persona 5, it'd be weird to not really be sold on it. Like, I have seen some people, but like with your circle of friends, have you seen any people who played P5 and don't care at all about Royal?
Yeah, I was actually one of them.
So what was that journey like for you? Because I've had a vague interest, but my case has always been weird because I took so long to beat the original game. Actually, Royal was an odd one of when Royal got announced. It just motivated me to finally beat P5. So what was your thing?
It's weird because it's like after I played P5, I was like, yeah, I liked that. And then I just never really thought about it. Whereas other games just kind of stuck in my consciousness. You know, like Nier, like Final Fantasy 15, those were still in my brain when I played P5.
Yeah, you were one of the rare cases of in 2017 people I knew who beat P5 didn't hate it, but kind of came out of it feeling very moot on the whole point of like, that was cool.
Yeah.
It wasn't one of those things of like you weren't like feeling yourself like extra drawn to, like, you weren't waking up in a cold sweat every night thinking about fucking Ryuji or something as you would with like Show.
Oh my god.
Not saying that I do that. Not saying I don't, but I'm not willing to commit either way.
Uh-huh. But yeah, it's just for I guess whatever reason it didn't like etch itself into my brain. And I can't really say exactly why. Because
when Royal kind of came out as like getting announced, was it just kind of like a eh?
Yeah, it was kind of like, oh, that's cool. P5 fans will be happy.
What's kind of changed leading up to the announcement last year as opposed to now when you got the code?
Not really sure. I guess I'm just interested to see the new content, and then, the beginning part that is changed.
Well,
I
are you
was like,
are you
oh,
are you ready to work for it? Because you're gonna have to earn that new content, sir.
well, I mean, like the little tweak in the opening
Oh
scene,
yeah,
I
yeah, and
guess.
yeah, we're gonna get into that for sure. But it's really funny. Like I was thinking about this. We're recording this the day it's gonna go live on Sunday. By the time everyone else sees this, it'll probably be late Sunday, early Monday morning.
Hmm.
Um, the streaming embargo for the game lifts for people who got review codes like us tomorrow on Monday, and I've seen a couple of other people also talk about wanting to stream the game, and a lot of them are like, "Hey, should I just start over fresh?" And I'm like, nothing against the opening of this game, especially like stuff like that. But I feel like if you want to show this game off, and if you just like, oh hey, I'm gonna stream for like an hour or two, what like besides that opening bit with the casino where it's a little bit different, like that's gonna like show the game off. I feel like in such a kind of boring light. Like there are quality of life changes and stuff for it, but like me now, I am 30 hours into the game and I finally got to Kichijoji. I finally got to the new mini games. I finally got to being able to go on dates with the wardens and stuff like that. And a lot of things are really locked behind things. Like Waffles, how long did it take you to get past Kamoshida's palace?
Oh God. Well, there was a time where I was like, I think I AFK'd from my PS4.
I'm just
Wow.
imagining you just turned into like your body went into rest mode while like fucking Rainy Days is playing.
I don't even remember what exactly I was doing. Maybe I was making. No, that wasn't when I was making pancakes. I don't know. But anyway.
Did you actually make pancakes over the last week?
Yeah.
I'm disappointed you have not shared those online. This is the week for pancakes. We're recording this if anyone doesn't know on a Catchy Appreciation Day. I feel like by law you were supposed to share the pancakes.
I have. I think I have enough of the mix left to make one more batch of pancakes.
I'm,
So when he says pancakes, I will stop playing and I will make pancakes.
I would love it, by the way. Like, you've ever seen those really dumb New Year's Eve videos? I'm like, if I start playing What Is Love, by the time New Year's strikes, it'll exactly say, "Baby, don't hurt me no more." Like, I want you to like have a video of yourself making making pancakes, and right as Akechi comes in and says the line, you flip it over, and it's like those like dumb pancake design drawings, and it's like, all right, if I start cooking pancakes like 3 minutes into this cutscene and flip it over right as he says, "Did anyone mention delicious pancakes?" then the pancakes will be ready.
Oh my God. Uh,
That's how you know we've really lived in the quarantine life for too long, when we're like syncing up video games and pancakes.
yeah.
So yeah, I think in terms of like streaming the game, it's a weird one in terms of the game, not like, and this is gonna sound way more negative than it is true, but I think you've played enough of the first Palace to agree with me that when you start the game, it almost tries to like trick you into thinking, look at how different everything is, and then by the time you're actually going into the palace, you're like, what the fuck is different?
Mm.
So like it's really weird in terms of like how it was marketed of like, hey, there's palace changes and there's like grappling hooks, and oh my god, I want to talk to you about the grappling hooks so bad. So many little weird things, and especially as someone who was super critical of the preview coverage of this game, now that I've played everything and am now past where the preview coverage stuff was at, I I'm retroactively more mad because I was like, this game was marketed so terribly by Atlus West. It was
Hmm.
like the most stuff they showed off was the equivalent of like, here's a really good example. Where you're at, you've probably seen Kasumi what, twice, not including the opening.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, so like just to like put this into perspective, I'm maybe 3 times in terms of length farther than you right now. I have ran into her 2 more times than you, and I finally started her social link. Her social link has 5 ranks. Even her social link is like, listen, you're not going to be getting a full 10 out of this girl.
Oh.
Yeah, like a lot of people, and I'm surprised like I didn't find out about this until sooner. I mean, I was trying to stay spoiler free for it, but it's not really a spoiler to say. You don't get Kasumi until October at the earliest, like as a playable character.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like, I think it'll be cool if they do stuff with it story-wise, but for me personally, like, the story stuff with her, it's been a super big, like, cut. Like, as soon as there's moments with her, it's very rarely ever affecting the overall story, at least as of so far. And the same thing with Dr. Maruki so far, and Jose, and also, just because I've made fun of this a million times, yes, in the game, Jose is pronounced Jose, but I am I don't know, stupid American, and I see Jose and I pronounce it Jose, not Jose. It's weird. Like, I've never met anyone have their name spelled Jose and have it be pronounced Jose. Like, I can get used to not calling Ryuji Sakamoto. Like, Sakamoto I got used to. It took me 3.5 years, but I got used to it. Like, Jose, my body is going to be really stubborn, and I can't get used to that.
Mm.
But before we kind of get into that, because I feel like I've been ranting and mentioning way too many negatives, Waffles, give me your example of you booted this game up finally after I got you code for it. You started up the game. What has your journey been like from starting up with the casino prologue to where you are now?
Well, so this is not about the music itself. I thought that I was sitting there when I turned it on, the animation in the opening, I was like, wow, this is not nearly as stylish as the original, but
You know what? That's a great thing to bring up. I like the opening song. I think, oh god, is it Flying High Colors or Colors Flying High?
yeah, I'm not sure.
I'll look it up for you, but I love that song. It's got I think stylistically, it's a really interesting take for an opening, and I like it. But there are some parts that have, like, really weird animation, like Kasumi dancing when you, like, kind of see her. Like, there's a lot of, like, weird frames that are either missing or just didn't have, like, them spliced between each other. Like, it just kind of seemed, like, weirdly choppy.
Mm-hmm.
But so, like, what stood out to you, though, with the opening that kind of was like something seemed off?
Well, I don't know. I think that the original opening, it was it had a very cohesive look to it with the red, black and white, and I guess other splashes of color here and there. Now, granted, it's been a long time since I watched that intro, but I was like, it was so unique and so striking. And then this opening is just like, oh, okay, this is like, an anime kind of opening. All right.
That's a really good comparison, because I think it's easy for that to sound like a complaint, but it is like when you think of like Persona 4 or even Persona 4 Golden's opening, and even, well, I'm in the weird case of, like, I actually think out of all the Persona 3 openings, I think Portable has the best. I think FES has a really kind of boring one. I love the song for FES's opening, but I think it's not even fully animated. It's literally just, like, kind of a montage halfway through it. So, like, a lot of those ones I'm not super sold on, but yeah, it's a little odd. It definitely feels more like this could have just been the Persona 5 anime's opening, as opposed to this is the opening for Royal. Because with the exception of Kasumi being in there for, like, what, 2 scenes, it doesn't really ever kind of have that thing of, like, hey, this is the, like, this is the definitive experience. And I mean, that's a really hard case to, like, hey, Persona 5, at least, and this is a weird one to kind of compare to, because Persona 5, when that opening hit, remember, we were doing that crazy ass live stream. Like, we watched that, like, 40 plus hour live stream to get to that opening trailer where they showed the opening off for the very first time, and we were all freaking out along with, like, millions of other people. It's gonna be a lot harder to, like, up that, because that opening is just so synonymous with people in terms of just Persona 5 getting announced, its release, like, that song I think hits people really well. By the way, the song in Royal is Colors Flying High. I always forget what that's called. So, but I mean, in terms of like the animation, yeah, it is very weird. Like I love, there are two shots that I really really love. One is a lot longer than the other. The long shot I really like is when it shows all the Phantom Thieves taking bats to the city. I really think that one's animated really beautifully, along with the shot of ranging from pulling the gun out, shooting, you like seeing the eyeballs on the TV screen, and Morgana getting flung out with the case. I think like stuff like that is like captures the essence of Persona 5 to me really really well. But there's a lot of other weird shots for it. But it's really funny because as someone who did go back and play a lot of P5 recently when I was beating it this year, the Persona 5 opening actually seems like it was made way 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 before the game was done. Because if you go back and watch the opening Persona 5, there's literally one shot of Haru, Futaba, and Makoto. They're like, oh shit, were they in this? Because, like, remember, like, when the trailer first started, we heard the song, but, like, we didn't even get Yusuke until, like, 9 months later. Yeah. And, like, if you looked at that whole opening, you would think it is about Morgana, Joker, Ryuji, An, and Yusuke. And then maybe 3 other girls, whereas like no, like they all pretty much got thrown in there at the end because they were like, hey, how much more money would it be to get a scene of them all skating on the highway? Because think about it, like everyone has a scene on the highway except those 3. So it's a little weird like that. So it is like inconsistent in the sense of like a lot of stuff like that gets brought up and. Like a lot of stuff like that gets brought up in terms of like weird animation errors, but. Alright, I have to make this dumb tangent because I don't think I complained to you about this on Twitter. Oh, but you would have actually seen this. Okay, so do you recall when you finally beat Kamoshida's palace? And also, this whole discussion, there is nothing that we are going to be talking about that would actually be considered royal spoilers. All the story stuff is way, 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 way at the end of the game. This is all going to be super on the nose, like impressions, quality of life stuff, so no one has to worry. Even if you've not played P5, I can't imagine we're going to get into anything that crazy. So when you finish Kamoshida's palace, you know there's that cutscene of Morgana, who's still in Phantom Thief mode, is like licking himself, and then they're running down the hall, and then Morgana is like regular cat Morgana, even though they're still in the metaverse. So that scene has always fucking bugged me, as like that's clearly an animation error. And it always has been that way. And that's like one of the earliest cutscenes they showed off. Like in, I think that got announced in like 2015, like about a year or so before the game released in Japan. And that was probably animated during a time where Morgana could turn into cat, Phantom Thief, or car, blah blah blah. And it was just one of those scenes they already had animated, because like there's not a ton of animated cutscenes in Persona 5, but like they took months and months and months to animate, because they are very gorgeous, honestly. So it's probably one of those things that they just fucked up on the rules, because the rest of the game, Morgana is never a cat like that in it. And do you remember in the original game how the game tries to retcon it, where after you finish that palace, An is texting you, and An is like, hey, I noticed something was up with Morgana. Like, why did Morgana turn into a cat when we were leaving the palace? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So that was in the original game unvoiced, and for whatever reason, Royal, after having 3 years to fix that issue, they decided, no, we're going to add Morgana coming into... is going to interject in this and have a voiced line to Joker, aka the player, that will then have them say, oh, here is why I turned into a cat, you're a dum-dum for not knowing why. And I'm gonna play it because it's just so fucking dumb and arrogant. No, I forgot. I can't. I have a whole. I literally recorded myself as that happened. Like I went back into my PS4, like the little auto recorder, and I went back and I was like, "How dare you? Like, how dare you? Like, have 2 new added layers of exposition that you even voiced, where you couldn't have just like gone back and like just taken out that second of Morgana being a cat." It's just one of those dumb things. I'm like, does it matter? No. But it's like, I hate that like they went back and they fixed a lot of things in Royal, but that one dumb issue of Morgana being a real cat just still bugs me. I have a weird Morgana question for you though, and this is not really Royal related. You know how when you beat Persona 5 and even when you're playing Persona 5 normally, whether Morgana is a Phantom Thief or a cat, Morgana's character picture is always Phantom Thief Morgana.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the game, when all the stuff happens, it's just Cat Morgana as the drawn picture.
I didn't remember that.
Yes, I forgot that too, because the reason I remembered it was in Scramble. Scramble is the sequel to Persona 5. Scramble starts with that character portrait of just Cat Morgana.
Huh.
I love that image way more, and I will never find it, like... I just thought it was so weird that, like, they have multiple portraits for everyone, especially now in Royal. But, like, why can't we just use the already existing... When Morgana is a cat, it shows the anime cat as... Because, like, do you ever find it, like, jarring, or am I just being a big fucking, like, crybaby nerd of, like, when Morgana is being a hidden cat, you still see the cutout portrait as if Morgana is a Phantom Thief mode?
I was thinking about it yesterday for, like, I don't know, like 20 seconds or something. I was like, I guess maybe because they can have Morgana be more expressive in that cartoony Phantom Thief form.
Yeah, I mean, that does make sense, because, like, there is literally one cutout. It's just, like, it's almost like a little derpy picture of Morgana, just be like, hey guys, what's going on? So that's always one of those weird, dumb nitpicks, but we can actually go into talking about extra character portraits. How do you feel about each character having about one or two extra character portraits when they're talking? So for now, well, I guess you've probably picked up, or I don't know if you have. How do you feel about the new character portraits and the fact that only the Phantom Thieves have them and not the side characters?
Well, I definitely immediately noticed when Ryuji had like a forward-facing face, I guess.
Is it weird? Is it weird to you at all, or did you enjoy it? Like, I immediately thought it was very good.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And I'm like, that was one of the things that bugged me in the original release was everybody had the same posture.
For the whole game, which is really weird, because especially because they have the cutouts. There's multiple cutouts for people too, but there's just that one I'm hunched over for everybody shot.
Yeah, and it didn't like, I think actually it bugged me the most with Futaba. When she was terrified, the portrait that they had available to use with her, I guess, didn't convey that at all, I thought. She just looked worried. And now I'm curious to see, how her portraits are changed, and hopefully they do. But yeah, I'm hopeful that they make her a face that conveys the emotions that she's feeling better.
Yeah, me too. And there's some really interesting choices, and because there is, like, it's not just the poses, like, there are still redrawn faces and stuff too. Like, the shot I sent you of Yusuke, like, when you meet Yusuke, his new pose literally, it's almost like a meme in the sense of, like, his new pose always reminds me of when you meet him, he gives that to you for, like, his disgusted face. And it always reminds me of that dumb meme of Principal Skinner from Simpsons of, like, just looking down at Bart. Pathetic.
Oh my god.
So that's what I was good for, but like now that I'm a little bit farther into it, like they have other ways they use it, and even little things like the fact that not only did they redraw portraits with all those different poses, the farther I'm into the game, they have that for obviously anytime they're in their Phantom Thieves outfit, those Phantom Thieves outfits now have new poses and stuff like that, and even the different outfits. And this is a really dumb spoiler, but if you blink, you will miss this. There is literally one moment in the game when An is wearing 9,000 sweaters for the like moment where she's having to do nude portraiting for Yusuke. Mm-hmm. So I love that scene just because I find dumb writing like that like really well done, and I think like that whole thing being voiced was really, really funny. They did a new character portrait of An with like in the different position, because An's new portrait face almost kind of like no matter what, for whatever reason, her head on look to me always like it always looks like she's surprised about whatever she's heard because her mouth is kind of open. Yeah. So they redrew that pose with all of her sweaters.
Oh my
And
god.
it is in one scene, and I find that so funny, because, like, and not like, oh, it's one scene like how the sweater's outfit is only in one scene. There is one line where she changes poses, and then it's back to it for the rest of it. I shared this last night, and I went, some guy got paid to redraw on with, like, all these sweaters fucking on, and it's for 1 second in the game. Because, like, that's one of my favorite parts about, like, when the presentation side of Persona got announced. Like, it's always easy to, like, say, oh, the menus look great and blah, blah, blah. But, like, honestly, the menus and stuff in Royal are all basically the same. There's no changes at all aesthetically to it. But I always loved the anime aesthetic of how they kind of blended the presentation aspects that they learned from Arena and Ultimax and melded that into the characters' modeling. Because when you strip everything away and you look at the models in Persona 5, you can tell that this game is a PS3 game, even when you're playing Royal.
Mm.
Like, the base models, like, especially for if it's not a main character, they look pretty, like, random NPC, like, level quality. I don't know if that is a controversial thing to say. Like, I think when the game is in motion and you, like, add all the layers onto each other, it's really, really good. But I don't know. Do you ever, like, feel like when you're just looking at some of the background elements, like, if you give it a really critical eye, you can kind of see the last gen parts of the game kind of hanging on for dear life?
Yeah.
Which I have to point out, I will say this. If you have a copy of Persona 5, like, whether it be digital or physical, you do not need to be an insane person like me and replay this 100-hour game before playing the 100-hour game. I will say at least do the, like, first opening act in the casino, because I don't know about for you, but, like, how apparent was it when you were playing the game that things looked better?
Honestly, considering the size of the screen I was playing on at the time, I don't remember. Yeah.
No, that's fine, because, like, the way that Persona 5 Royal looks good is it looks like how you remember Persona 5 looking. Like, if you go back, it's like when you play Catherine full body and then go back to regular Catherine. Like, the bones and the skeleton for everything is still the same, but everything just looks so much smoother and better. And that's definitely the case in Royal. So, like, it's really, really odd of, like, when I played Royal, I was, let's say, 3/4 of my way into Persona 5. So I did, like, the first, like, act or so. Not even, like, the first act. Like, I did the first week in the game. And when I was playing it, I was like, holy shit, like, this play, I thought the game, like, was looking way better, like, played a lot better, and, like, played a ton faster. And then I went to Persona 5, and I was like, oh no, like, Persona 5 Royal just plays like how Persona 5 on PS4 should have played. Like, it has a steadier frame rate. You can technically play it in 4K if you have a PS4 Pro, but it's not true 4K. It has, like, a lot, like, technical stats wise, like, you and me are basically getting the same stuff out of the game, and all the quite, like, kind of technical nerdy side of things you really wouldn't be able to know without having, like, a super big microscope comparing both of them next to each other. It's one of those ones, though, of, like, they know you're not going to do that and compare it, so the visual enhancements to Persona 5, you're not going to be playing and going, holy shit, this looks better, unless you pop in Persona 5. And I think if you do P5 and then go into Royal, you're going to really appreciate how much better it looks. And another thing, I don't know if you picked up on this, this game is like, you know how some people are insane and they, like, listen to podcasts or, like, watch movies at 1.5 speed just so they can get it done quicker?
I guess I didn't know that was a thing.
That is a real thing, seriously. Like, there are people who, like, will watch movies and listen to podcasts at 1.5 speed just to, like, make it go by a little bit faster. Playing Persona 5 Royal feels like you're playing Persona 5 at 1.5 speed. Like, do you feel that way at all? Because, like, the loads are almost non-existent, like, especially compared to 5. Like, you see that rotating head a ton. There, like, you very, very, very rarely see the actual loading screen of this game.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I hadn't yeah, I guess I don't really remember exactly how the loading went with the original release.
It is very prominent. Yeah. It's very prominent, and going back to this, like, I feel like I'm blowing through the game, which is really funny because, like, it's a testament to when this game was coming out, and the Japanese press for it, they were like, hey, we added the equivalent of 30 hours of new content to Royal, the game is going to take you just as long as like Persona 5. It's not going to feel any longer. And that 100% makes sense to me. Because you can do a whole lot more stuff, but all of that free time now comes from, oh shit, like I'm not just like kind of killing myself with like, I don't know what to do anymore. A great example, and I don't know how much you've really been able to appreciate this. Oh my god, memes aside, being able to always do one last thing inside your room or LeBlanc is like a game changer. It doesn't even feel like it, but it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even just the tiny little act, and this is such a nerdy thing, but I love the fact that they did this so much. No matter what is happening, if you do the crossword puzzle, it doesn't progress time. Because I love the crossword puzzle in the game, and most people don't even know about the crossword puzzle being a thing. But if you... Oh, what?
Oh, I haven't done the crossword puzzle yet. Oops.
Did you ever do it in P5?
Nah.
Okay, so get this. In the original Persona 5, unless you go up to it, the game never tells you it exists. There's never a tutorial beforehand.
Huh.
But you probably noticed when it was like explaining that you could like clean up around LeBlanc and other stuff, and you had extra time, it said, hey, there's a crossword puzzle. So I'm sure the one guy who had to program the crossword puzzle was very glad his work didn't go to waste. Because I'm willing to bet that literally 1% of players in Persona 5 did crossword puzzles. And take on top of that, like, all it gives you is 1 point of knowledge experience. So think of every task you can do at nighttime. Why would anyone choose to waste a whole night activity on a crossword puzzle that takes up actually quite a bit of time if you're not just blowing through it or cheating? And then on top of that, like, oh, well, you also lose all of your time. So it makes doing activities like that, even though it's like not really super beneficial to my playthrough or my character, it makes me now be able to do crossword puzzles and stuff like that guilt-free, which I really appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
Which I highly recommend, if you get a chance, please check out the crossword puzzles. They're all new. I know you haven't played them in P5. They're really fun, and they actually take one of my favorite aspects of Catherine. And I know you didn't play Catherine, but it has trivia. So whenever you finish a crossword puzzle, the main question is like a trivia thing. So a good example for one I did was related to Golden Week, and it was like, hey, the answer was Golden Week. Spoilers for the week 3 crossword puzzle. And then it says, here's some trivia about Golden Week, which is like, I enjoy little stuff like that, because one of my favorite things in Catherine is if you drank a certain alcohol, it would give you trivia about the alcohol you were drinking. So like little things like that I really, really appreciated. Trying to think, so because we were still talking about your experience for it, I cannot believe we went from complaining about the opening animation to me going on a 5-minute praise about the crossword puzzles. So besides the opening animations, continue on with your thoughts on Royal.
Well, I guess okay, so my playtime is around 20 hours. I move very slowly and let everybody speak.
Well, have you noticed that there's now more voice acting in the game?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So this is a weird double-edged sword. And you're going to feel this a lot more after Kamoshida's Palace, because a lot of stuff is voiced in the beginning and the end of this game.
Uh-huh.
They have new voice acting. It's really great when it's in there, and it definitely stands out if you've played it again. I wonder if, like, people like you... Because I showed you that clip of mashing Morgana's head, right? That I tweeted yesterday?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'm sorry. I shared that to like a bunch of people yesterday on our podcast Twitter. So, do you remember there's a scene, and it's going to come up shortly, where you're playing in the game, where you're on the train with everybody, and a kid comes up to you, and he says, "Oh, is that your pet?" And you're like, "No, it's a toy." And you're like, "Well, I heard it talking." Yeah, if you hit its head, it makes a noise, and you have 3 choices: hit its head once, hit it a couple times, or mash it. And if you do mash, is a really funny animation, but it's just the generic, like, because it's not voiced at all. That whole scene isn't voiced. You just get the every now and then, like, one word stuff for it. So when Morgana is getting hit on the head, he does I'm trying to think. It was one of my favorite Morgana noises in the whole game, of like when he goes like, yo! So they fucking voiced that cutscene, and I do have this one queued up because it made me laugh my ass off way, 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 way too hard. Now, when you mash his head, he does this.
Oh my god.
And so, like, it has a whole bunch of little cute things like that, and unless you're super going through everything like a fine-tooth comb like me, like, if scenes like that got voiced, would you right away know, like, oh, hey, this is a new voiced cutscene?
Actually, I didn't even remember that scene until you told me.
Yeah, because, hey, this game came out 3 years ago, dude. So, like, I think this is a weird thing about covering this game that a lot of people haven't really done, of, like, there's a lot this game does right, but a lot of the stuff to appreciate it, you have to have just played or be a fucking savant of Persona 5. Not that I'm even slightly referring to myself as a savant, but it's just so crazy about, like, they did a whole bunch of work to add in new voiced scenes, but then any time where there's not, which is still a lot, I would say this game is maybe 40% voiced. Like, a large majority of the stuff at school is not voiced. No one's social link confidants, because basically confidants for the most part are voiced for the first one and for when you max out their rank, you know? Like, they didn't voice any of the new confidants. Like, if it's not new story related or kind of story related, like the scene with mashing Morgana's head, nothing else really got voiced along the way, so it's really uneven. And it's like, I love that it's like there's more voice acting and stuff like that. And from what I've noticed, the only character change is Takumi, the doctor. So considering they actually didn't give her any new voiced lines, I mean, at least so far, obviously there is the whole extra semester, so there will be a lot more voice acting in that sense, but it's just kind of like, it's a weird double-edged sword of, I love that there's more voice acting. It just kind of left me feeling like, hey, I wish this whole game was voiced, which I know was like such a big ask, but I wonder, is that like going to be a negative for you the deeper you get into the game, do you think, or are you just going to enjoy as it comes to you?
I'll just enjoy what I get, honestly.
Do you have like a favorite, like, and this doesn't have to be like a favorite character. Like, did you have like a favorite performance? Because I have characters whose voices I really liked, even though I didn't necessarily love the character. Like, I think a lot of stuff Morgana does is funny, even though I don't love Morgana as a character.
I really liked Sojiro, and I love Futaba and Yusuke.
So Sojiro is so good, if not for the fact of just like his voice actor just kills it. And I had a conversation with this like a couple of weeks back. I don't remember who this was or even if this was on the podcast, but someone asked me and said, "Who's best dad?" And I instinctively just went, "It's still Dejima." And as I've been putting more time into Persona 5, I'm like, fuck, I really like Sojiro. Like,
Yeah.
he's a really great character, because he's not one note at all. Which is very, because, like, when you kind of get to him, he's definitely like, I'm the hard-ass parent who took you in because I don't fucking care. I'm cashing the checks.
Yeah. Oh, it's so cute.
Well, because I think he also, him and Futaba, to a lesser extent, he gets a lot of screen time, obviously, as with Dojima, like, hey, he was a presence in your life, but he wasn't like the Nanako. Like, Nanako was always there when you came home, but, like, Sojiro was always there at the store. Like, Sojiro has the scene with Futaba's palace. You have the whole thing with her social link when you're going through her confidant skills and whatnot. So you, like, if you want, you can get a lot out of his character, even more compared to, like, characters you would romance. See, I've really enjoyed coming around to how much I liked those characters, because I think before I started, the characters who really rang out to me as of, like, let's say a year ago, it was like I really liked Ryuji and I really liked Mishima. And I feel like a lot of people still sleep on him. Like, is he just like a meh character for a lot of people, or am I just a big weirdo for liking him?
It's in In what I saw, and what I recall anyway, it seemed like it was pretty split, actually, pretty polarized, but maybe I don't know if the general perception you got is meh.
Well, I'm in a weird case because you remember I even somehow through doing this over the last 3 years somehow actually stayed spoiler free for all of Persona 5, including people's takes on the characters. Like even spoilers I wasn't aware of. Like I knew about pancakes for Akechi, and I knew about like other like inside joke moments and whatnot, and even I knew who the quote unquote final boss was, who's not really the final boss. Like I had moments like that spoiled for me, but with no context, like still going through it and finally beating the game, I was like, oh, this is still great. Like I appreciate this more so now that I know what everything means, putting it all together.
Hmm.
So also, yeah, I can't believe like I didn't love Yusuke more before playing through 5. If anyone here is like just kind of forgets about Yusuke after Madarame's palace, he has got a confidant like his whole storyline I think is really really fun to go through.
Yeah, I maxed him the first time.
Just like and there's like little fun moments as well. Like and I know you haven't gotten there with Royal, but I don't know if you remember just like those moments of like when like you're going into mementos with him and he's painting, and then the next one is like, oh, you're going to the art show, and then like there's an art critic and it hurts him really bad. Because it's like,
Yeah.
hey, when someone's, because I'm sure you can relate to this even more than me. Like when someone's critical to your like work who's just like a random person, it's like, oh, whatever. But then when it's like someone you know who knows art is critical to it, it's like it hits you in a whole nother way. Because it's like your work, whether it be art or fucking dumb podcasts like I'm making here, it's all personal to you.
Hmm. Yeah.
So stuff like that hits really really hard. I was honestly surprised after I beat P5 again. The only one who I was like, wow, I did not care for her social link, and not even in like a meh way. And this isn't even spoilers at all. It's like I feel like the game doesn't even like stop trying. The game just literally doesn't know what to do with On after Shiho gets out of the hospital.
I didn't finish her link, but
You're not missing much, and it kind of sucks because there are a few plot holes from Persona 5 that I'd be very curious to see if Royal does stuff with. Because one of the
mhm.
big ones with me legitimately was like, hey, why does Shiho never come back? Like, yes, it makes sense that she wouldn't come back to the school or that she'd be at the hospital, but like it seems really weird that like more of like On's character is defined by Shiho, and I feel like having those two never really interact a lot around you is like a really big missed opportunity.
Hmm.
Also, weird tangent, but you just beat oh my god, a lot of people with K's in their name in this game. Fucking god.
Yeah.
Kamoshida, thank you. I kept wanting to say Katabayo or whatever the fuck the principal's name was. Kamoshida's palace. Do you tie that as more related to On or Ryuji? As who's like standing up to Kamoshida?
Uh, hmm. I mean, I this time around I felt more like on, I guess.
Cause like as I was going through it again, I was like, okay, I get it because of the whole Shiho thing. I've just like so closely associate Ryuji with Kamoshida way more. And obviously like I think the reason people associate On is because Shiho tried to do suicide after everything that happened, but I don't know, I feel like there's a lot more of that like history, whether it be how the game presented it, and I kind of wish like when you beat Kamoshida's palace, it isn't just On like getting to choose what to do with Kamoshida. It would have been nice if like all three of them even got to pick, because obviously Joker to a lesser extent, like yes, he was also going to get expelled, um, because of everything, but it was one of those weird things of like. I feel like out of all three of them, Ryuji to me felt like he had the most history with Kamoshida, ranging from like the time he broke his leg to like threatening his mom and kicking him off and basically ruining the whole track team. I feel like Ryuji just has like the most chip on his shoulder from him personally, whereas On feels like a lot more of by association of Shiho. Like if Shiho didn't exist, she wouldn't really be pissed about Kamoshida, because even Kamoshida lurching himself on only comes because of Shiho. My God. Am I insane here, or because I was thinking about this a lot recently.
I'd have to chew on that a little more.
That's okay. I mean, it is multifaceted, because I always joke about this with people. I find it so funny. Is like Persona 5, like it has a lot of interesting themes without going into like spoilers for it. I kind of wish every bad guy gave me as much to chew on emotionally as Kamoshida, and because Kamoshida also gets a lot of flack for being like, hey, this is way too dark for the game, never really kind of living up to that, at least for most of it, which is fair. All the other bad guys, I don't know how you felt. Did you feel like they all felt like a little bit more toned down thematically after him?
Oh, definitely.
And obviously, like, it's all about, like, paces, like, gives and takes. Because, like, imagine if the game ramped up after Kamoshida, like, everyone got worse. Like, if we ended the game and Kamoshida was the lightest villain in the whole game, like, I feel like that'd be emotionally so taxing.
Yeah.
Weird little tangent, and I've brought this up on the show, but I would actually love to hear your thoughts on this. You have not read any of the Persona 5 manga, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, it's really funny, especially now after going through Royal and doing everything again. I've still not seen the Persona 5 anime, but I've heard so mixed, not even mixed. I've heard a lot of bad reviews and takes on that. I'm in no hurry to really watch that anime anytime soon. I would love to soon for the podcast, but like not soon. So, did it ever seem weird to you that Kamoshida is going to expel everyone because after Shiho tries to kill herself, they all basically go up to him and say, hey bro, what the fuck, why did you make her kill herself? Because, like, if you think about that, outside of him being a big top shot, like, teacher in the school, what proof does he have that, like, if he brought up all four of them at the PTA meeting, what the fuck could he say besides, I'm the coolest teacher here, that would be an actual reason to expel them all?
I mean, I guess they were kind of saying he just had that kind of power.
So, like, I love this, like, the manga, and I'm really excited because I think the second volume comes out, like, in a week or two. It might be, I know it's April, but my brain is totally fried. The manga, because it takes a lot slower, which is really funny, because we were talking about how slow Kamoshida's palace is in general. It takes a lot of different angles and is a lot slower in terms of telling the story. Like, for an example, in terms of how slow it is, the whole first volume of the manga is from the beginning of the game to Ryuji getting Captain Kid. So, like, yeah, like, it takes its time with it, and it does a pretty interesting job with it, I'd say. But one of my favorite parts about it, and I almost had wished that they had gone back and kind of retroactively did some different lines like this, is, you remember before Shiho tries to kill herself, you guys are going around the school basically harassing all the boys and girls on the volleyball team, saying like, hey, what dirt do you have on Kamoshida? And no one's going to speak up or anything, but everyone at the school knows you guys were asking everyone. So Kamoshida knows that you guys have been trying to get dirt on him. So Kamoshida's whole thing is, I'm going to tell everyone at the PTA meeting next month that you guys were bullying Shiho, because from the outside it just looks like people, like, they were just going up to everyone. And I remember Joker and Ryuji to a lesser extent already have like a juvenile, like a delinquent reputation about them. So from the outside, all these people are just seeing that the delinquent kids are going up and talking to kids after school in the volleyball club, and one of them tried to kill themselves. So Kamoshida says, I'm going to go to the PTA meeting, and I'm going to say that you guys were bullying Shiho and instead of me, and that's why she tried to kill herself.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
And I love stuff like that.
I even was having a hard time buying that whole bit.
Yeah, so I was a little sad, like, retroactively they couldn't go and kind of make that change, because I think that's, like, one of the strongest changes in the manga, and, like, reasons I really like different adaptations. And it would just be a voiced thing. Like, it's literally just like a line. You wouldn't have had to do too much, but it is one of those things of, like, I like Kamoshida's arc a lot, but that's the one jump for me that always gets to me of, like, I can't see like why that would happen. Like I could see obviously in like, hey, we need a countdown. Here's why you're gonna get expelled, whatever. But that's the one thing that even as I was playing Royal, I was like, still wish they would have taken this from the manga. But I guess kind of talking about Kamoshida. How did you feel about his palace? And in the sense of this, I guess my real question, because I know probably what you're gonna say. How did you feel about how it has changed? And for you who hasn't played Persona 5 at all, when did it actually feel like it was different at all for you?
I mean, I guess I noticed the will seeds. I noticed the grappling hook, but honestly, other than that, it didn't seem a whole lot different to me. And also, it was dragging on for me. I think partly because I just wanted to get through that part of the story so that I could, like, I don't know, have a chapter closed. And it seemed to be just taking fucking forever.
Well, I have good news for you. It is streamlined, like maybe 5%, but it is a little bit faster. The changes though, I feel like are so minuscule. Like literally the only reason, at least from the first couple of palaces I've done, the grappling hook's sole reason for existing to me, especially in Kamoshida's palace, it's like literally the only points where you really have to do the zip line is to get the 3 will seeds.
Mm-hmm.
And if it wasn't for the 3 will seeds, well, why would you do it? The only real good explanation point, and that kind of makes things a little different, is did you notice that there's that one scene before you get to the tower where originally in the original game it's like 6 of the red shadows patrolling around, and there was a couple of crates, and now there's like a little gazebo, and there's a hook, and if you do the zipline hook, you basically slingshot yourself all the way to the entrance of the tower, whereas before you do sneak past them all and then run alongside the roof, hopping to the roof.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like that's like the biggest change there was, and it's just kind of weird because it's like a weird, like, I like what they're doing, and at the same time it felt like they were just changing things to be different in a way that didn't actually make exploring the palaces more fun. Like even though I said like, hey, this is shorter, there is less of the dungeon, you're actually traveling around and whatnot, I feel like the grappling hook for me is placed around so sporadically. It's not like you're fucking Batman. Like, you're using that grappling hook in the first palace, like, what, in 3 different areas? It's just very, like, kind of sporadic in terms of how often you're using it. It never really felt like a tool I could use. It kind of just felt like, hey, we took up the stairs here, use the grappling hook. Like, how did you feel about it?
I don't know. I wasn't really. I was pretty neutral on it, I guess.
How did you feel about the will seeds? I actually liked
trying to use the grappling hook actually got me caught in that room with all the red shadows.
Yeah,
I was mad.
Yeah, I had a situation where the first time you used the grappling hook in the palace, I went back down. I was like, oh, I kind of wanted to experiment with, like, do you always have to be looking at it? Because the game very clearly will let you know when you can use the grappling hook. Your hand basically has a giant, like, fucking blue gleam to it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, trying to mess around with the grappling hook mechanics some more, and a shadow basically spawned like right on top of me, and I was like, oh, son of a bitch. But how did you feel about the will seeds though?
So I opened the area to get presumably the second one that I don't know, that I was gonna get. Saw the shadow, and it said, hey, it might be tough. I was almost out of SP, so I was like, you know
were
what?
like, fuck this.
Yeah, I just fucking left.
Did you beat the palace without getting all 3 of the will seeds?
Yeah.
Okay, I have good news for you. And possibly news that'll make you a little salty, but it's not the end of the world. When you get all 3 will seeds, and for anyone who doesn't know, there are these new collectibles in every palace. There are 3 different seeds, which are they're basically like, imagine if you made a skull out of a giant plant seed, and it's really horrifying, which makes it really funny to me when Joker's just holding it in his hand with a big smile on his face, like, yeah, look at this fucking thing. I'm like, no, this is horrifying. I would not want to be picking these up, because the rooms where they're in, like, are like ASMR for the fucking palace keepers. Because, like, I don't know if you were, like, listening to it, but, like, if you go into the rooms, it's just, like, dialogue of, like Kamoshida or whoever is the palace ruler, just, like, whispering around you, like, echoing a bunch. I want someone, when Royal comes out, like, to just, like, hang out in that room, record the audio for, like, 10 minutes and just loop it for an hour and be, like, Kamoshida ASMR session.
Oh, my God.
It's just like imagine just, like, 30 minutes of, you like that, Mishima, you little bitch. You want to see these volleyballs one more time?
Oh, God.
Oh, those would be some great comment sections, I'm sure. So the will seeds give you SP, which is really, really nice, especially if you're playing on harder difficulties, because that game does not give you a lot of SP items. So on top of giving you a added benefit of ways to regain SP without having to leave the palace, if you get all 3, you get a accessory. So I don't remember if you, like, did very much. I'm not gonna lie, my whole playthrough of Persona 5, everyone had the same accessory. They had the glasses from Persona 4 because they gave you, like, double XP. And I never used any accessory in the game. Like, all the accessories in Persona 5 to me, I thought were just such garbage. Like, I never needed to use them. Did you really mess with them at all?
I probably did.
Well, good news, because I don't know if you noticed, but have you noticed that this game goes out of its way to make accessories not necessary to a point where I'd say they're mandatory, but so good you'd be stupid to not use them?
The one that gives you Garu just because, I was like, what?
Dude,
okay.
Yes!
Somebody's fucking wearing that.
Skill accessories, which I was talking to people before that, like, I don't know if an SMT game has had this before. Can you think of an SMT game that has had skill accessories where whoever wears an item, if this accessory has a skill to it, you just get to use this skill as, like, an extra slot for free?
Yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
It is so nice, and the longer you get into the game, you're going to find more, but one of the reasons you want the will seeds is they give you a skill accessory exclusive to the palace. So for Kamoshida, it was like a healing one. I think it was like Media or something. But, and this goes into something we'll talk about later, when you meet Jose has the ability to refine these will seeds accessories, and he makes them into even more unique. He basically levels them up. So if you bring Kamoshida's will seed accessory to Jose, he makes it so it has 2 skills in one. So it makes a unique skill. Kamoshida's is like Champion's Lust or something, and it lets you do a full heal on a character for 10 SP along with raising their attack for 3 moves.
Dude.
Yeah, so you get like 2 moves in one, and it's a really, really cool thing for it. And now if you're listening to this after playing through the first palace and you didn't get that item, and you're saying, well, fuck me, when you meet Jose, if you don't have every will seed, you can buy them off of him.
Oh, nice.
So the game, like, when you're going through mementos, and we'll go into mementos after talking about the palace a little longer, you're collecting stamps which change elements of mementos, and you're collecting flowers. Flowers basically are your temporary currency before you leave. When you leave, it's like a roguelike. You lose all of your unspent currency. So you basically just have to collect enough. You have to collect enough flower juice for Jose, and he will give you your unfound will seeds. Because obviously, once you beat a palace, you can't go back to it.
Right.
So you can still get all these awesome stuff, and I highly, highly recommend when you're going through the rest of them to explore if you can get it. And obviously, in your situation, you were just kind of wanting to get the fuck out of that palace.
Yeah.
So yes, I don't know how you really feel about it, because obviously you probably don't have a ton, but for me, skill accessories was a really big surprise in terms of, like, I haven't heard a fucking soul talk about that, and this is one of the best parts of that game because, hey, guess what? Now let's say if I have party members that I like, but they don't necessarily have skills that I always can use. Let's say if I'm wanting to keep Yusuke in a dungeon where ice isn't always super helpful, well, now I can just give him some extra skills with an accessory, and he's a lot more viable now.
Yeah.
Speaking of little dumb gameplay changes, we're going to speed through this and only talk about them if you really want to, but I want your hot takes on this, Waffles. Number 1, how do you feel about refillable ammo after every fight?
Very good.
Oh my god, it made the guns so much more fun. Because, like, literally guns, fucking guns in Persona 5 are cool until you realize, oh, you can never refill them unless you make this extremely hard to craft item. So, like, all guns were like, okay, who's weak to guns? I'm gonna do one shot, okay, and I'm never gonna touch it again. Which really sucks, because, like, there's some characters where it's really fun to just fucking lay on them, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I love using it for Yusuke, obviously, with his fucking assault rifle and other stuff like that, and oh my god. Especially for Ryuji, because Ryuji's shotgun is so satisfying, and, like, nothing is more sad than, like, starting a palace run, using Ryusuke's, like, what, 4 fucking shots, and then it's like, oh, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. I'm glad you enjoyed that as well, because that was one of those big changes to me that I was like, man, how the original game did not have this, I have no idea. Change number 2. How do you feel about I'm gonna fuck up the name of this, but you know what I mean. Shadow shadows, which is basically when you see purple.
The disaster shadows.
Yes, disaster shadows.
I think it's. Yeah, it's just for me. It's just kind of there.
See, for me, I like it in the sense of. It goes back to what I said about when you're playing Royal. It's just so much snappier and faster, and it makes those battles really fast. Whereas, like, when you go through dungeons, like, say if you're just grinding and whatnot, the game will pick that up and start spawning them, like, every other fight. And it makes grinding so much easier because you're not getting less XP. So the way that Disaster Shadows work, they're basically like reflective mirrors and a time bomb in one. So if I hit a disaster shadow once and took out half of its health and it's still alive, it's going to hit us back, basically like bouncing that damage back. But if you overclock its damage and basically kill it, it turns into an explosion. So let's say I killed a slime for 700 damage. Now all the other shadows on the field get 700 damage as an explosion. So when you're going into battles and stuff like that, and especially for grinding, like having those spawn or just make the game so much faster.
Yeah, I guess I could see that. Yeah, like I understood how they worked. I was just like, but these things die so fast. Like, what's the point? But
yeah, like once you kind of get into it, especially for stuff like mementos, like when you're going to be getting a lot of fights and like whether you want to or not, I just appreciate that. And also, it's one of those things of like, unless you're getting into like a crazy boss fight, it makes stuff like, oh, I'm just gonna pull out my gun, like, or I'm just gonna like pull out like something that I know is going to do enough damage to kill it and is going to like blow up in everyone's face. Change number 2. I'm curious what you think. How do you feel about the revamped baton pass system? You no longer have to earn the ability to pass over your one more.
Yeah, I love it.
Thank you. Because nothing is more stupid than when you are in a palace, let's say like with a new character, because for whatever reason, Persona 5 says, oh, you can have this person in your party, but until you beat their dungeon, you can't have a social link with them. Which always was so dumb to me because they like each character becomes better like with all those abilities, and just having Baton Pass be immediately available was like such a fucking lifesaver. Other little changes, curious. How do you feel about the revamped negotiations menu?
Oh, what exactly were the changes?
Okay, I'm glad you asked. So now whenever a shadow is talking to you, in the top right corner, Morgana will comment on their mood, and if you look in the top left corner, it'll always say if they're happy, irritable, gloomy, because remember, In every fucking SMT game, if you don't know what a fucking dumb demon's, like, snarky little text bubble is saying to you, it basically makes your first negotiations with an enemy fucking impossible or really dumb. Because nothing's worse than when you're like, okay, well, I don't want a dumb fucking lifestone out of this, so I just want him so I can summon you. And it just, like, it has made negotiations so much easier for me that if other SMT games don't copy this, I'm visibly going to get mad, because it's made negotiations perfect. They don't tell you which option to select. It's just, here's their mood. When you know their mood, you're still having to work out the puzzle of replies. It's not like making it dumbed down in baby mode easy. It just takes out that little extra layer of, hey, Waffles, I need you to remember that Jack Frosts are always going to be fucking happy. So, like, I don't know, like, if that was an immediate thing to you, but when I was playing, I was like, oh my god, this is, like, such a big change.
Yeah, I guess I was there kind of like, is this new?
Well, that, honestly, like, Atlus would never want this as a back-of-the-box quote. All of the changes in Royal that, like, get me the most fucking hard are all shit that you think should have been in the game to begin with. It's like, it's great that they're there, but it's also one of those things of like, okay, well, why wasn't this already in, like, the base game or whatever? But yeah, so yeah, it's one of those great changes that, like, you have to be, like, tell people are in there, but especially if you, like, had played the original and are going back to this, it just makes everything so much easier. Well, I don't know. It's fair enough. Obviously, it is making it easier. It's just hard to be like, because, you know, some people, like, when they hear it makes things easier, they're worried that that also equates to it being dumbed down. I would say all the new mechanics that we've talked over, like, to me personally, I don't know how you feel, nothing that they added into Royal feels like it takes away what made the gameplay loop of Persona 5 or even any other SMT game fun.
I would agree, yeah. So far, yeah.
They're gonna add, well, actually, there are a couple of things we've not talked about and I don't have unlocked yet. I'm going to pull it up, but while we do this, I would be curious to know what you think of the updated boss fights. So you have done Kamoshida's boss fight, and basically, if anyone doesn't know, all of the boss fights have either an updated phase or a brand new phase. So what did you think of Kamoshida's new changes?
That was another part where I was like, is this new? I don't remember those two being part of the fight actively, but I thought that was cool.
So I like it, especially because, like, and if anyone doesn't know, this has been shown off in previews a lot. Kamoshida's new boss fight mechanics are, instead of just getting his servants to give him a random volleyball for his, like, volleyball nuke spike attack, he first calls out Mishima, who's like a cognition version. It's not the real one. And if you survive that first attack, he sends off Mishima, and then afterwards it is Bunny Shiho. And immediately when I saw Bunny Shiho, I went, oh, this is a really cool dark twist. But also there was a part in the back of my head that was like, would have been a lot more funny if once you got rid of Bunny Shiho, Bunny Mishima comes out. I'm just saying. Keep it fair.
Oh my god.
Can you imagine if he came out in a little bunny girl outfit and he's like, here's your ball, sensei?
Aww.
You know, you say aw, but it is like a really fucked up thing to be like, here's a skank that I made kill herself. Like, and also when you kind of think about it, of like, there is the moment, and I'd be curious what you think. When Shiho comes out, you have the choice. Did you just focus on Kamoshida, or did you kill the Shadow Cognition?
I went straight for her.
Oh yeah, me too. I was like, listen, I'm sure someone out here is going to have an emotional problem right now, but I just want to beat this fight, so I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, I'm like, this is not her, so, it's gotta go.
I appreciate that you feel the same as me, because there was a couple of previews when they were talking about this boss fight that made it sound like that was like such an emotionally deep and challenging thing to do. Like, I can't believe it. They bring out On's best friend and this abused victim who just tried to commit suicide. How could I ever think of... And in our heads, like, you gotta get out of here. I gotta beat this boss fight. You are being a problem.
Yeah, to me it was like, it's a bastardized version of them. Like, it doesn't deserve to exist.
Mm-hmm. And I think, if anything, obviously, like, all jokes aside with what we were talking about, like how people were talking about it, I think it would have been interesting if the game handled that, like if in the middle of the boss fight, if you do fucking want to go for Shiho, like, and like defeat her shadow, like, I think two things would have made that really interesting. One, On won't attack her, just because, like, she can't get over it, like, mentally, like the hurdle of it. Like, I know this isn't real, but like I can't do that. And on top of that, I think it would have been really cool if you do defeat Shadow or like Cognition Shiho, that like On like goes into rage mode or whatever for a turn. Just like something like small like that, that'd be like, hey, like this is affecting her like mentally, which would make sense. But I mean, obviously that would just be making the boss fight a lot more complicated. I'm really happy to say that so far with all the new bosses I've done, he is actually the most boring new change. I don't want to spoil it, but I will say the changes that they've done to the new bosses, especially you kind of notice it later, like Madarame's is a really kind of, it almost looks lazy at first, but it makes it a lot more challenging. Like, I always thought Madarame's boss fight, the second boss, was really easy. Because if you remember, Madarame's boss fight in Vanilla P5 is defeat him as a painting, which, by the way, still looks fucking creepy. I think it's just the extra mustache coming out of the painting, but, like, his painting face made out of 5 different paintings looks like a nightmare to me. But yeah, like, all the different changes so far have been very, very welcomed and kind of cool. The one that I'm curious and honestly a little worried about, I'm trying to think about... Okay, so I don't want to get into, like, spoilers for it, but you know how the last 2 final bosses in the game, not including the angels on the way to the final boss, so killing... Alright, so without saying exactly who it is, Waffles, you know who the final giant-ass Transformer boss is, right?
Oh god, it's been so long.
No, you don't need to say his name, but I'm like, do you remember how, like, the final boss already has a lot of multiple forms as you're, like, going through all of his phases?
Vaguely, and the one that sticks out in my mind the most is this certain one. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it.
You can say it.
The big chalice.
Yeah, so, like, that fight and the previous, in the ship palace fight, I'm really curious about, like, those already have so many phases to them. I worry that adding more is going to make them feel bloated. Like, I hope that they kind of, like, trim out a few or, like, make the new stuff replace some of the older moves. Because I like those last 2 boss fights, but those last 2 boss fights are the longest ones in the game. Trying to think of other things I want to talk about. Before we get into Jose, did you mess around with Challenge Battle? We're going to start talking about drama now.
Nah.
Okay, by the way, the move I could not remember is called Showtime attacks. Those are those, like, duo attacks where you've probably seen them in trailers where it'll be like Morgana and On coming together, or like Ryuji and Yusuke at the bar.
I need to actually catch up on a lot of trailers.
No, don't do it, because you're playing the game, so that means when you experience it for yourself in the game, it's just going to be fucking great.
Nice.
What was it? So that's something we haven't really gotten to. That takes, I think, after the next palace that I'm at. You have to get about halfway to the game to unlock that, because it's an RPG. Why not make functions of the general battle mechanics unlock 40 hours into the game? Something else I want to talk about, though, was the challenge battle. So, did you have that like talk with the wardens about what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, so did you just kind of not really go into it all? Did I scare you off when I started complaining about it to you on Twitter?
Oh, I just really wanted to get through Kamoshida.
You're good. I understand that.
I don't want to spend time on this. I don't want to spend resources on this. I just want to get through Kamoshida.
I understand that. By the way, do not feel bad. Are you moving your microphone, or is it just me thinking you're moving your microphone?
Oops. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, I was stretching.
You're good. I don't know what's moving. Like, I think your mic's hitting something, but I can't tell what.
Oh, it's probably.
Yeah, it's that.
Oh, wow. You can actually hear that. Okay, I will just try to stay as still as possible.
Well, so what is it?
It's like the arm is creaking a little bit, and because part of the microphone is like missing.
Oh, okay. I'm understanding.
It's like making it shake a little.
Okay. So this is going to be more weird. Go back to what you're doing before, because you trying to stay still is making it shake more than when you were not trying to make it shake.
Oh my god. Okay. I'll try.
You're good. Okay, so, I mean, listen, this is already a hot mess. I'm surprised I have enough internet to make this happen right now with how much of a disaster it's been. So, challenge battles, for anyone who doesn't know, are really fucking cool and really fucking stupid at the same time. So, the fact that I called this cool is an incredibly large compliment. In most games, I hate score attack modes. Are you normally much of a fan of them for like any other kind of games? Like for me, just score attacks just do nothing for me.
Yeah, I guess really kind of not.
Okay, so the way this challenges battles work as a score attack is you have one battle unlocked from the start, and you can rank up the levels the higher your characters get, and there's different rewards for it. There's basically third place, second place, first place rewards. The one challenge battle you get is just a variety of different shadows. It's not randomly generated. It's always the same kind. And there's little multipliers. So it's, hey, go through these waves of battles, but if this round happens, if you get Anne to do if you get On to do attacks, she does 3 times damage. So damage is points. So for every point of damage, that's 1 point to your score. So let's say if you also do wind attacks, that's 10 times. So if I get On to do a wind attack and it kills like a whole group, instead of being 300 points, that's going to be like 30,000 points. And it has a lot of really interesting things like that. Also has a really sick track just for that mode. And then my immediately biggest problem comes with it. There are 7 battles in the game. The game shows you all 7 cages. And if you go to select anything that's not the first cage that's unlocked for you, it just says you have to unlock this from the PlayStation Store. Like, it just straight up says, hey, this is in the game, but it's all DLC. You can't do any of this.
F.
The biggest F. It's like the F'est big F I've... That offended me so much, I broke my embargo to complain about it on Twitter. Like, I'm technically not supposed to be showing or recording footage of the game until Monday, but I saw that and was so offended. And I was offended when I seen it in Japanese, but I hadn't like seen how all the text looked. I just saw that there was the lock symbol, and I was like, I haven't experienced this for myself. Let's see how this is. But when I saw that, and it's not like it took you a long time to get to that. Like, that's within the first, 15 hours of the game. Is you see this new mode that's exclusive to Royal, and 6 out of the 7 fights are locked behind stuff. So 4 of the 6 that are DLC are with classic demons and stuff like that. Like, there's one for Alice. There's one for Alice and a whole bunch of other SMT demons. But the 2 biggest ones that's going to make the most people mad is there's one fight that's DLC with Makoto, the protagonist of Persona 3, and you, the protagonist from Persona 4. And they are brand new models. They are updated just for Royal. I'm sure Makoto is probably his model from Dancing, but whatever. There is the songs from the game, and when you're fighting against them, when they do their Persona summons, they even have art from Persona 3 and 4 where their thing flashes across the screen, you know?
Oh my god.
Yeah, so they have these awesome boss fight modes and these secret boss fights that are stuck as DLC, but it is still advertised to you in this game, which is a re-release of a 3-year-old game as DLC That is not included in anything, and there are multiple versions of this game. You can buy the standard version for $60, the collector's edition for $90, the digital deluxe version for $80, and the ultimate edition for $100, and even the $100 edition doesn't come with everything. And it is just mind-boggling that while this is still a great game, I cannot get over that no reviews have covered this. Right? Like, that's weird. Because I don't know if you know this, but Persona 5 Royal, at least to my knowledge, I'm going to look right now. Do you know that Persona 5 Royal is the highest rated review game of the year?
I did not.
I'm going to look this up right now. I'm going to Metacritic. Highest rated on Metacritic, but the scores have been crazy either way. Best video games on Metacritic for 2020. Sitting above Animal Crossing, above A New Half-Life, at number 1 is Persona 5 Royal at a 95. So, like, the reviews are overwhelmingly positive. Like, there's over 40 reviews here. And they're all lots of 10s, lots of 9s, but, like, not a single one, and I've looked through them all, not a single one mentions this mode. And it just boggles my mind that, like, even if you don't care about this mode, how you would not have a negative reaction to this just really, like, confuses me. So, like, as someone who really wasn't aware of this, like, how do you feel about it, Waffles?
Seems kind of shitty to me.
Well, I have good news. You are not the only one, because when I posted about this on our Twitter, let me get to our posty post for this. By the way, shout out to everyone who has been hitting us up on Twitter at SMT Network. We've had incredibly large amounts of people following us on Twitter now. Just to, like, put it into perspective, Waffles, we've had this Twitter account since 2012, July of 2012. It took us until 2019 to get 1,000 followers. And it took us a year to get 500 followers. And in the last 2 months, we've already gotten, like, another 250.
Nice.
So clearly putting in very low effort embargo breaks helps your social media clout numbers. But either way, so I made this tweet that we've tweeted about this before, but it blew up quite a lot. But first I tweeted about this with the Japanese footage, but I had shown off the English footage, and I said, a while back we showed what Persona 5 Royal Challenge Battles menus look like in the Japanese release. Now that the game is in English, I hope you all see that the game does not hide the fact that 6 out of 7 battles are locked behind paid DLC. The part that makes me the most sad about this is that these challenge battles are really fun, and I can only imagine how happy people would be if you could unlock these boss fights. Like, imagine if you unlocked a boss fight with Persona 3 and Persona 4 protagonist for, like, imagine, like, each palace you beat, you got a new challenge boss cage unlocked. And so, like, when you beat the game, you can fight against, like, Makoto or you. Like, how happy that would make people.
Yeah.
And even other little things, like, that gets me really excited for it. Like, hey, these boss fights are going to be voiced again. Like, that means we're going to get Yuri Lowenthal to do Makoto lines again. We're going to have Johnny Young Bosch do you again. Which they haven't done since their dancing games, which were the last time that they did any voices. Which is really exciting. Like, obviously, they're just going to be saying Persona a lot, but it'd still be cool to hear them do grunts again. Waffles, is there any chance, even though I've probably scared you away from wanting to do a lot of challenge battles, that you check out the mode just even for funsies?
Maybe at some point when I just have more stuff to burn.
I will say this, is there any price they could charge for these DLC characters that you would consider buying? Or are you pretty much like, I'm good with whatever amount of game is here?
Like, do you think they're selling them individually? Like, do we know this yet?
So, Atlus West continues to not want to tell me how much these cost. In Japan, they were split up into 3 packs. You and Makoto were sold by themselves for the equivalent of 300 yen, so presumably to be about $3 each. And the rest of the characters were sold in a 4-pack, and that was 400 yen. So 400 yen, so the whole thing would be $10 for all 6 fights.
I would be tempted to get the P4 and P5 or P3 one.
I gotta be real with you. Are any of the DLC costumes going to tempt you?
Dude, okay, very naive question. Is all the DLC I already bought useless for Royal?
Like, are you going to be able to do anything with it because you bought it in P5?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have actually good news for you, and that is not a naive question. This is good because this is pre-release. People need to know these questions. Great news. Unless you bought all the DLC in Persona 5 and then feel like a total douche like me. Everyone playing Persona 5 Royal will be able to download all of the Persona costumes, personas, and all of the van decals. So all the DLC that was ever offered, paid or free, in original Persona 5 is going to be a free downloadable item on launch day.
Hey, nice.
Did you know how that was handled last year in Japan, Waffles?
No.
It was not free. And the best deal you got is if you did buy it in the vanilla release of Persona 5, they let you buy it at a discount for like a penny. It was like, really? Like they I think the wording they described it was it was a transfer fee. So
okay.
I love that the DLC is free. I do not like that people are congratulating Atlus West for giving it to us for free. I think that DLC should be on the disc and usable right away. I don't think that we who have waited months even after the Japanese release should have to pay any DLC price. I think it's kind of ridiculous. And this is coming from someone who does buy a lot of the DLC. I don't know what you bought. I bought in original Persona 5. I bought all of the costume DLC, and I bought the Tsukiyomi Persona because I was like, I just want to hear someone say Tsukiyomi besides Sho.
Yeah, I bought that, and I bought the SMT themed ones. Rido. What else? If I know there were others. P2.
I don't know how you're going to feel about this. Did you know that Kasumi is so special, she gets her own DLC packs for costumes? So even though you bought the Rido and SMT packs, and everyone in your game you can play as has costumes for them, if you want Kasumi to have an outfit from SMT1, or, well, I guess SMT1 isn't represented, like SMT-If and Rido, that you have to buy the Kasumi DLC from those games. Which is very yucky, I find. Do you know what the new DLC costumes are, though, for everyone? Because there are two standouts that I think might interest you.
No.
Has everyone's dancing outfits, like actually dancing. Because do you remember when Persona 5 came out, there was the Persona 4 Dancing Night DLC where everyone had the terrible fucking outfits?
Oh my god, yeah.
I will never, like, I found a picture, because I found this a couple of months ago. It's Morgana's Dancing All Night outfit, and it's just Morgana with that terrible rainbow afro. And I wrote on the afro, I paid money for this. Like, I paid money for this outfit. So there are actual Dancing All Night outfits. Well, I guess technically Persona 5 dancing outfits. So it is their outfits that they had in the dancing game you can now use in Royal. Another one that might interest you. Strange Journey. Everyone has the Demonica armor.
Yay!
And Morgana, I think you might be able to guess, has oh no, I always forget. What what the Jack Frost-like armor is called.
Oh crap.
But you know what I'm talking about. It's
Yeah.
the tiny Demonica armor with the Jack Frost face.
Yeah.
And final choice, which this isn't even an argument or up for debate complaint. This is the most effort they've probably ever put into DLC costumes. There is just a Persona Q costume set where everyone looks like they're from Persona Q2.
Oh my god.
Which is hilarious because like how low poly those look, and then now like on a PS4 it looks really good.
That's adorable.
That one will be fun too, especially for people's like all-out attacks and the Showtime attacks. The Showtime attacks are all in-engine too, so when you're doing like a good example is the Ryuji and Yusuke one, it's the two of them like at a bar. And so instead of like the two of them like in their Phantom Thieves outfits at the bar, it's them being chibified, like shooting up a bunch of people.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's really, really, really cool. So that one I'm not even like, hey, you put new assets in from a game, then it's really cute, it's very funny, like stuff like that I'm definitely for. The Mnemonica one, I'm a little sad because Strange Journey on a surface sounds really hype. Because, like, think about it if it's, like, Yusuke has, like, Jimenez's outfit or whatever, with, like, Bugaboo and different things like that. No, literally everyone just has the Demonica armor, and then Morgana doesn't. So, it's like, I get it, but it just would have been one of those things of, like, the cast of Strange Journey is so cool, but I feel like Atlus always forgets to market, and the only thing they ever want to remind people about Strange Journey is the Demonica armor.
Mm-hmm.
DLC questions aside, do you have any other questions about it for me?
I think that was just the big one, yeah.
Okay. What were we going to talk about besides DLC? Oh, Mementos. So, what was your opinion on Mementos before? So, for me personally, I had always heard people shit on Mementos, and when I finally was playing through P5 even in vanilla, I loved Mementos. Like, I would just put on a podcast and just roll on through. I found myself, by the time I beat Persona 5, I wished there was more requests for me to do in it. That's how much I actually liked it. Like, what was your take on it originally?
I was admittedly kind of meh on it. I also didn't like the music.
Yeah, I mean, I did literally start by saying I put on something else and immediately stopped listening to.
It's like it's so long, and you spend so much time in there, and the song is just, it's very there. It's very repetitive, and it doesn't change, like, you know how P3's progression at least switched it up a little bit.
You mean it changed a color?
The music changed in P3 a little bit, right? As you progressed up the tower.
I thought Tartarus was the same the whole time.
Really?
Listen, I mean, it's been a long time, so you're probably correct. So would you say you liked?
No, it's been a long time for me too.
Would you say you prefer looking back on it Tartarus over Mementos?
I think Tartarus being the area you go to for the game makes it not as good.
Yeah, because like you have to be in it, whereas Mementos, like outside of beating the game, you don't really have to do a lot of Mementos when you're playing. You can ignore it.
Yeah.
By the way, do you call it Mementos or Mementos? I feel like I always putting an A in front of it, even though I know it is Mementos.
I always call it Mementos.
So I have good news and bad news for Royals Mementos. What do you want first?
Give me the bad news.
The music is the exact same.
Oh.
Good news, everything is better besides the music. So, for starters, like I mentioned earlier, Jose is now an ever existing force in Mementos. When you are in there are new collectibles, so along with finding the cubes that have loot, the cubes actually have more than just one item. So when you roll through like those treasure cubes, it could hold like, let's say, 2 different items and a material. You are picking up flowers. Those are for Jose, and like I said, when you leave mementos, those disappear. So his store isn't like something really crazy. It's just kind of like a nice little extra incentive to pick up. Jose is in his little clown car, as we talked about before, and he is going through mementos looking for flowers as well. So you're not always hearing. Like, he doesn't have a spot. Like, he's not just at the beginning of, or the rest areas in mementos. You do have to look for him, which can make it a little bit, not frustrating. It can be like, hey, let's say if you just finished and you have like 100 flower points left and you want to like get an extra snuff drop or something, but you have to then say, okay, well, do I want to have to find him and hunt him down? It kind of makes you weigh that a little bit. And so that can kind of be conceived as a little bit of a negative, but his shop isn't anything that crazy once you get your tools refined, like I mentioned earlier with the skill accessories, or if you're buying the extra will seeds. Other cool changes, there are a lot more randomization. I feel like areas got very boring. Like, obviously the tracks changed every like 4 or so levels, but it always kind of felt like, okay, you're going to snake out maybe 2 or 3 different times, and you'd be lucky to find that one hallway design that would randomly appear that kind of looked like an octagon. So this time the designs are a lot more varied. They feel a lot more like they're just different randomization things, at least that I've seen so far. Like, a big one for me that I was very surprised at, I had one area spawn in mementos that was literally just a circuit. It was, when I entered, you could go left or right. There was nothing else, no other doors besides the one that brought you higher or lower, and it was just a giant circle with nothing in the middle. And I was like, that's really interesting. Like, I appreciate it, like, actually being different and not just kind of being a weird, randomly made maze. Like, it's still obviously being randomly procedurally generated, and that's just like you're gonna have those things happen with it either way. Another cool thing that I've not got to test a ton. So, how often did you really feel like the weather actually made mementos feel different? So, obviously, you had stuff like whether it be raining or pollen season and even flu season. Like, for me personally, I thought all of those always kind of felt like, okay, unless I was like farming Reaper, which you can't even do now in the flu season, I never really thought the seasons made anything that much more exciting. And if anything, I feel like it just kind of made it more boring if I'd be driving around and I see all the shadows asleep.
Oh, I guess I didn't even remember that. I just didn't. Mementos just did not make an impression on me. Except Mementos.
Mementos. Well, I'm glad we now have a name for this episode title. Mementos. No, I can't name this episode Mem. That'll make us seem like we hate Persona 5 Royal, which is not the case. I have a lot of phrases for it. I hope I've come across as very much like, hey, I love a lot of the changes in this game. They're just little weird things that like stick out to me in a weird fucking way. But no, they have new little deviations, and I really appreciate them. So I got my first one, and I know there are multiple other ones of, when you are going through, you can have a chance that when you're on the map, there will be random elements changed. So it can be like all treasure demons, or the map doesn't fill in, or you can get the one that's like, hey, this is the best possible outcome, but it's also the worst, of higher level demons, more items, your map doesn't track, and the whole screen is pitch black, so all you can see is the railroad tracks.
Oh.
So it has different things like that that either make it more easy or more dangerous, but I just appreciate the fact that there is more variation, which I think will hopefully lead to people liking it a little bit better. I think also having the world's fucking cutest, I don't know, do we still call them Velvet Room assistants even if they're not in the Velvet Room? Like, what do we call people like Marie and Jose? I guess no, Marie is always in the Velvet Room, so how would we classify him? Because obviously with his eyes, he's clearly in the same kind of, I guess, organism descriptor as, like, Elizabeth and Theo, but how would you kind of describe that?
I have no idea. I haven't met him yet.
It's really weird, yeah. He's just a fucking egghead, but he is very cute, and I very much look forward to your reaction when you meet him.
I'm looking on the wall next to my computer screen is a little picture of Emil, and when you said the thing about when he drives in the clown car, horns off, and I'm like, huh, Emil, he's small and he drives around in a
Oh
goofy
my
little
god,
shop.
Waffles. What would it take for you on a very bored day of being at home to draw Jose in Emil's car and Emil in Jose's car?
Oh my god.
That would be the best thing ever. By the way, in case anyone is not aware, whenever you see Jose in his car, he ends every conversation with his car's horn, which I shit you not is just a default Clip Studio clown horn noise. And I think if he looked like any other design, that would be stupid. But because he's a cute little fucking kid, it's like, oh, alright, I like him. That's Mementos. I'm trying to think if there's anything else really that I want to talk about with it. What are some other like takeaways that we haven't necessarily talked about, Waffles, that stick out to you?
So I went into it trying to like kind of look for places where the translation felt awkward, like the way it did on the original release, and I'm like sitting there, I'm like, none of this seems really not great the way it did the first time I played it. So I don't know if there are actual changes in the translation or what.
I'm glad you brought that up because yes, the translation is kind of different. The changes are very, very few and far between. I was never in the camp that like thought the localization of P5 sucked. If anything, I would say, which is really weird for how long it took to come out, it felt like it was rushed, which is kind of odd because I know it wasn't.
Yeah, that was the impression I got for the early part of the game. The conversation that was not between main characters, like side characters and like stuff like that.
By the way, I still hate a lot of those third-party discussions. I was really hoping that dumb line of like when the two boys are talking after On leaves, like, "Hey man, you gonna try a pass at her? Man, that's Kamoshida's bitch." I'm like, who talks like this? Even 3 years later, I hate how that guy says that's Kamoshida's bitch. So weird to me. That line just always sticks out to me. It's like they're also. Oh my god. This is a very light spoiler, which is funny because it's like super at the end of the game. So there's a moment after the ship palace, Waffles, that do you remember basically after all palaces end how everything starts crumbling down?
Mm-hmm.
So when the palace user of the ship crumbles, he's surrounded by a couple of other politicians and doctors. And one of the doctors literally sounds like they had just ran out of voice actors and had to get Ted and accounting in. And it was just like, what do we do with his body? We're just going to have to see if we can do our best for him, I guess. Which I'm probably overselling it. Like, it was so bad, and it was like at the end of the game too, and everyone was so serious and so dramatic. Like, I think this is just a default complaint about Persona 5 because they didn't go back and do a lot of new voice acting for Royal with new characters. Man, if you are not a main or side character, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry, this is a blatant fact. Your voice acting is bad. Everyone's voice acting who's not a main named character is bad. Like, tell me one side character who you're like, man, fucking homeless guy with the guitar, he gave a good delivery with this 2-word line.
I guess I can't really.
Cause like it's not like they hit that special spot of insultingly bad on all signs, which is funny that you like before you brought it up, I wouldn't have even mentioned it. Like, they're so bad that you have to not like it. And it's not like they're Shenmue, where, like, Shenmue, you can say, has bad voice acting. I like Shenmue's voice acting, and I understand that it's not the best quality. Shenmue has character. When you hear people, like, when you have the little fucking 40-year-old woman trying to do an 8-year-old girl's voice of being like, "Hi, mister!" Like, that has character to it because, like, you can just kind of feel there's a person to it, but a lot of the voice acting for the side characters are really bad delivery. Like, I don't know if that was just a effect of, hey, we need to voice 40 different people by 3 different men and women, but it's just, like, the bar of quality from when you're going from Matthew Mercer as Yusuke to anyone you ever hear talking at LeBlanc, everyone's bad in LeBlanc. Like, it just, all, like, I wish, and I hope if someone's listening to this, find me one character who, like, is a nameless NPC who talks in Persona 5. I wish they were good. Okay, no, there's one. Do you want to know who it is?
Who?
It's fucking Ray Chase as the train announcer guy. Ray Chase, aka fucking Noctis, is the best non-named character in Persona 5 because he at least, he gives more personality in saying Akiyama Ichome. Akiyama Ichome. That has more character in it than the fucking Kamoshida's bitch guy. It upsets me because, yeah, like, there's things like that where I don't know if it's like this is a situation of this is just has the largest voice cast for a Persona game and it just sticks out more. But I just never had that feeling with, like, localization and voice direction before Persona 5. It's way, way, way better in Royal, which I think is part of it. We've had a lot more time to get used to it, and there were changes. But I think they changed the really glaring stuff, and then they also changed some of the stuff that people have gotten either really happy about or really up in their butt for. Did you ever have much of an opinion on the beefy trendsetter?
You mean the gay dudes?
Mm-hmm. The only 2 in the whole game.
Yeah, I was actually not happy about them. Yeah.
So
that was a sticking point for me.
As people may know, this podcast has been going around for 160 plus episodes. I'm a fucking dumb straight white guy from Kansas. Waffles, I'm not telling you I don't get it. I want you to tell me and the listeners why you did not like those scenes with the 2 presumably homosexual gentlemen hitting on Ryuji.
Well, I hated the part where, I hated them being just the people who you throw in there who are presumably gay being, like, predatory towards a young guy walking by or whatever. And it's like, okay, so Kamoshida was not a joke, but this is suddenly a joke when it's, and I don't know. And I don't know.
It's just, I'm legitimately curious because you're the first person I've met who actually wasn't. For me, that line, even back when I first experienced it, before I knew people say they didn't like it when this announcement happened last month in February, I didn't know this was a scene that people complained about. Like, I'd honestly, in all my whole time in the group, I'd never heard anyone complain about it. Like, had you heard a lot of other people display, like, negative sentiment towards it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, I know a lot of, I mean, I'm not straight, I'm not this or whatever, so it's like I hear a lot of this from just, like, my community. But, yeah, I guess one of the things I hated most about it was that not only was it a joke that Ryuji was possibly being pulled away to be, like, I don't know, molested by these older men, your player character is not even given a choice to intervene. He walks off as if it's like, aha, it's so fucking funny that they might go and, like, have their way with him in an alley.
I think one of the reasons also it doesn't hit a lot of people who might view it as what's the big deal, is that's one of the non-voice scenes. And even in Royal, to my knowledge, I don't actually think that was voiced. Actually, no, I know 100% that was not voiced. How do you feel? There's 2 points I actually want to get to you about this as someone who hasn't seen. I'm assuming you didn't see the updated cutscene because they did. There were like articles or whatever that put it out that they updated the scenes, but it wasn't like that drastic. Have you?
Yeah, I heard about the update. I haven't actually seen the text though, so I don't really feel like I can comment on it
No,
yet.
no, no, no. That's actually not like my biggest question. My biggest question I was wondering is, first off, how do you feel knowing that that cutscene didn't change in Royal in Japan? That cutscene is the exact same in Royal in Japan. It is only different for the Western version. I feel like that.
Yeah.
I feel like that kind of like takes the blow out of it for me in the sense of like, well, you guys are now just kind of changing the original intent, and whether you like enjoyed that cutscene or not, like or not even cutscene, whether you enjoyed that moment in the game or not, it is always going to loom over it of like, hey guys, the original creators had no intention of changing this.
Um, just for hmm, I can sort of see why I guess people would not want the original intents uh lost. I guess I don't know,
It's
but
it well, it's weird
as
because it's like
as
let's
a
say
queer person
let's say
playing it,
this.
I'm gonna be not as annoyed. I guess I don't know.
Well, and one of the reasons I think you can kind of defend why you'd want the author's original intent in there, it's like, let's say there's someone out there who really likes Orson Scott Card's work, but they also are like, hey, Orson Scott Card is a fucking, like, xenophobic, like, homophobe, and, like, like, I appreciate him as an author, but he's a shitty human being. It could be like, hey, I don't want to separate the artist from the art in terms of my enjoyment for it, but I don't want you censoring what the artist is because it's like, I think people enjoy having that kind of be there. Because, like, I would be sad if Atlus West took it upon themselves more times to feel like they had to self-censor the Japanese creators, because I like having that conversation, because I like when this conversation gets brought up, and this did thankfully happen in our Facebook group in a pretty civil way, and which is very rare to see in 2020, of it's not just gay is bad or people are being like white knight SJWs or whatever. Like, there is an actual interesting argument there of, hey, let's talk about this. Like, I can see the side of, well, like, Waffles, I totally get it. That is a very not realistic and very almost like hurtful depiction of homosexual stereotypes in video game medium. I also think it's really interesting that, like, hey, we should talk about this. Like, they didn't put that in the game because, haha, that's funny. Like, they put that in there because that's how Japanese, like, the Japanese men and women who live in that culture still to this day, that is how they think of those characters in those stereotypes. Like, they don't put those in there because they think it's comedy gold. They put those in there because that's how their depiction is, like, so ass backwards of, like, if you think, if you live in America, and I'm not trying to belittle anyone here, like, being openly accepted as homosexual and whatnot in America is so different than in Asian cultures, especially Japanese cultures. They are very, very ass backwards in a lot of those sense. And I like having those conversations of, like, I think we don't talk about it enough about, like, how different that is and why that's a bad thing. Like, I enjoy having those conversations of, like, I'd rather have kept it in personally and be like, hey, this is a really problematic thing. Let's not say this makes the game worse. Let's actually put it back on the people who put it in the game and talk to them and say, why did you put this in? What do you think this brought to the game? Even if it didn't bring anything good, it would hopefully shine a light on them and be able to change future products and stuff like that. I hope what I said makes sense and didn't seem like total ramblings.
I think I get you.
Like, a good example is this. In Catherine, there is a trans character who a lot of people were not originally very excited with how she was handled in the original game, and Full Body took that feedback and actually did change and removed a lot of the dialogue that depicted her as less of a freak show and just depicted her as, hey, here's a guy named Eric. Eric is now Erica. No one finds this weird. We found it weird, but hey, guess what? Me saying I'm not used to my guy friend from high school transitioning to being a girl is weird. That's not transphobic. That's just real life. People have those conversations. So, like, that team can do it. The team who made Catherine made Persona 5. The team who made Persona 5 Royal didn't make Persona 5, but that's its own whole thing. So I personally am on the weird camp of I like having those conversations, but I know having those conversations, especially across different languages and across different like mediums, is very difficult. Point number 2 of this, I did not plan on us going on this big of a tirade, but I'm very glad we did. How do you feel about this only being an updated change, not only in the Western version of Royal, but hey, guess what? That original version people find so hurtful and problematic, that's still in the game. They're selling that in the vanilla version of the game. They didn't patch that out of the game. You're telling me if you want to have a more... if you want to have the more appropriate depiction of that cutscene, or if you want to, because like Atlus in an interview basically said, hey, we weren't proud of some of the ways that Persona 5 depicted characters, like how they depicted those two men and whatnot, whether it be on the beach or in the red light district. Like they said they don't like how that depicts us as a company. Guess what? You're still selling original Persona 5 for $20. That's still you as a company. You're telling people that if you want to see your updated moral values, they need to pay you $60. And I feel like if you want to stand up against that cutscene and other changes in terms of like the game, I'm not even going to say like, hey, you're making us pay $60 to censor the game. I think if you are wanting to stand on that high horse, go for it. Please do. Tell us why you want to make this change to the game, but you also need to back it up. And you need to then patch that into the game of the original P5. Because, like, think about it like this. Let's say I lived my life as a problematic author, similar to an Orson Scott Card. If Orson Scott Card did a updated take of Ender's Game and had moments in it that retconned previous works... but he was still selling newly printed versions of the still problematic versions of Ender's Game, you're just profiteering off of both sides. Like, you kind of have to pick a side. Like it's kind of one of those things of, you know how whether you agree with someone on a certain topic, like, if you know someone who sticks to their guns and really believes on one side of the argument, hey, good for you because you're picking a side and sticking with it. Like, Atlus is basically on the side right now of, hey, here's how we feel, but you can still see how we feel before. It's a weird issue. Like, does that have any reaction to you? Because I've just always been amazed at no one really bringing up the fact that, like, hey, they updated this for Royal, but they didn't patch it into original P5.
Yeah. Well, I only just heard about the update, like, maybe yesterday, I think.
I would love to know how you just now found this out.
Well, actually, it was the day before yesterday. I was talking to a friend. Yeah, so I found out about it 2 days ago. So I'm not aware of any discussion of it. I'm just aware of strictly that there was a change.
That's okay. It's been a weird thing because I hate because of like how it all's happened with a lot of behind the scenes interviews and not a lot of actual discussions, and because I know that the Japanese team is not listening really to like, hey, like no one at Atlus in Japan who's working on whatever Persona 6 is going to be, like no one in that team is like hearing what we're talking about with this scene being updated only in one version of the game, you know? Like for them, like we are the definition of like not happening.
But do we know that they're not taking any feedback?
I think if they took that feedback and actually felt bad for it or even felt a little bit different, I think that dialogue wouldn't have been the same in the Japanese release. Because like like Atlus West has said and like you've said, this scene wasn't offensive in 2020. That scene was offensive when the game came out in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So you've had 3 years of people to tell you that they liked or didn't like that scene. You weren't going to just take the Western release, changing it, to then say, okay, now we're going to listen to the feedback, you know? And obviously, there's still a lot of time. Things can change, and we don't really know what's going to happen. It just sucks because I hate how the conversation around the whole thing just became you're censoring the game or you're trying to kowtow to people who aren't even playing the game. Because obviously there were people like you, Waffles, and like friends you were talking about, who played the game, like who played and are planning on playing on P5R, and are like, hey, I didn't like this aspect of it. But a lot of other people also might have just not cared about that scene and viewed this as like, hey, why are you putting effort into changing a scene that didn't need to be changed? Whereas instead I wished the conversation would go back to, hey, let's talk about why we would change this and what we should do going forward. Do you know anyone who has heard the news of it being changed for Royal and plans on picking it up more due to that, or probably not?
I haven't talked to enough people. Like, I've literally talked to one person about it.
Shout out to that one person.
Yeah, one of my friends, Tyler.
What's up, Tyler? I'm sure you're listening to this. I'm sure you're listening every week. So, Waffles, I don't want to end this podcast talking about Tyler. I love Tyler, but we got to talk about something a little bit more positive. So, let's finish this by saying one thing we are most happy about with Persona 5 Royal so far. Because we've done a lot of good, we've done a lot of bad, we've done a lot of Jose. What is the one thing from all of your time you've put into Royal that you are most happy about or most looking forward to experiencing, and why?
Oops, I pulled up Okay, I started a list. Let's see. I think I'm most curious about what's going to be going on with Kasumi. And yeah, I think we pretty much covered everything I actually wrote on my list.
Just curious, did I scare you or make you any more nervous or worried when I said Kasumi only has 5 social links to rank up?
I guess I'm kind of neutral on it.
Has there ever been a character who had less than 10? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, that I'm not sure of.
Are you excited, by the way, about having to manually rank up Akechi?
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, Akechi, by the... Oh, you know what? Okay, so say your opinion, and then I will say a PSA for everyone out there listening, because this is actually important for you as well, Waffles.
I would like... I mean, I don't know. Yeah, on the surface, I feel like it sounds great. But I don't know anything else about it other than that is it.
So I have a little bit of a heads up for you, which you are not in a point of too late to hear this, and I have described this a little bit earlier before. Waffles, did you know that the new 3rd semester that is exclusive to Royal in this game is actually only accessible if you rank up Akechi's social rank as much as possible, as well as Dr. Maruki?
Oh, damn.
Yeah, so if you don't get Akechi's social link, I think it's like to rank 9, it might be 8 or 9, by a certain point towards the end of the game. If he is not high enough, Persona 5 Royal will just turn into Persona 5, and the game will just kind of end just like it did with Persona 5. You will not get that new semester. So everyone playing, whether you love or hate Mr. Pancake Face himself, if you want to experience the primary amount of new story content in this game, you have to do his social link. So do not skip out on Pancakes or Mr. Snacks. Actually, no, that's not true. Dr. Maruki is I associate him with Snacks, but also Apple Juice. So for whatever reason, every scene he's in, outside of like outside moments, he always has like a little box of apple juice. Like, you know, you'd see like those little like cardboard boxes of apple juice you'd put in like kids' meals.
Yeah.
He's always carrying those around for whatever reason, and I really like that. I almost forgot. Besides giving people a heads up, we asked users some questions, and we have some questions to answer for everyone. Are you up for some questions before we finish up the show?
Sure.
All right, our first question comes from Facebook. This is from Stephen Yep, who says, how much is transferred over from the original P5 if you completed it? Waffles, did you ever end up transferring over your save from P5, or did you just jump into Royal?
I ended up loading it, and I got 50,000 yen and some items.
Yep. And was that worth it?
I mean, it helped.
No,
the money vanished almost immediately.
Yeah, you went to buy your updated gear, and then all that money was gone, and you're like, what the fuck was the point of this? Atlus is just really bad at like save completion bonuses. I feel they don't really ever do like super satisfying ones. I will say, I know I've talked about this on the show, but Waffles, you don't know. Scramble has my favorite save bonus completion ever. If you have a save data from P5 and P5R, you get both of their battle themes as playable DLC songs, which is very nice. Steven also says, what are the quality of life changes so far that everyone has talked about? I.e. load times faster, battles faster, more XP, how much more content is completed around the same time? So we kind of talked about that. I actually would be curious, though, about this. Waffles, do you remember how long the original P5 took for you to beat?
It was over 100 hours, if I recall correctly.
I whopped in. I did not try to do everyone's social links, and I'm not going to lie. I got to a point of no return, let's say around November, December. There's a certain point where you come back after being gone for a while, but you're still like right before the end of the game. There was 14 days left. I looked at my trophies and I went, I can't earn any of these other trophies besides story moments, and I just slept for 14 days straight in the game. Woke up, went to bed, but it was like, I thought about it and I was like, I got to play fucking Royal. Like the way you felt last night with like beating Kamoshida's Palace. Imagine that, but just for beating a game to then beat another game. Yeah, that was one of those things. So I clocked in at, I think it was a little around 80 hours to beat the whole thing. But I actually didn't do too bad. My first playthrough, I got 70 or 80% of all the trophies. Like, assuming I'm not a total madman, if I get really bored or nostalgic, I might try to platinum P5. Because the hardest trophy in that game that I really need to do now is to beat the Compendium. I will say this. I don't know if you looked at the trophy list at all for Persona 5 Royal. Way easier trophy. Like right now, I'm 30 plus hours into the game, I have almost half of the trophies, if not already half. And
Damn.
you can get a platinum in that game if you make sure you don't miss anything too crazy on one playthrough. You do not need to read all the books. You don't need to play all the games. You don't even need to get all the confidants maxed out. You don't need to get all the personas. It's basically, if you look at the trophy list, make sure you do a couple of specific things in regards to fusions and confidants. Check out the new mini games, and then you're good to go. Oh, a little shout out, because I don't know if anyone's actually asked this as a question. Kichijoji, I gave a lot of shit to in terms of previews because it is the one new town in the game. I guess, do we still call it a town, or is it just a city? What do you call them when they're like sub-districts of Tokyo?
Sub-district.
I guess so. So, Kichijoji is actually really cool. It is a lot more dense than I thought it would be. It's not like a fucking like whole new world, but it has a good amount of new stuff, and the stores there are actually very interesting. There is a recycle store. So, you remember how in the original P5 you got about maybe 3 or 4 dirty clothes that you could wash, and then everyone forgot what the washer in the game was for? So, you probably noticed you're getting a lot more soot clothing and like dirty clothing.
Yeah.
You can still wash it, and you can actually wash up to 4 items at a time now. If you go to this recycle shop in Kichijoji, they give you points. And the store, basically, it's like a Salvation Army, you bring dirty recycled clothes to them, they give you points, and they have an exclusive point shop. And one of the things that's really interesting in their shops is every couple of, like, I think it's every week or so, there is a blind bag of clothing. So for like 50 points, so like one article of clothing is 10 points. And for 50 points, you get 4 random accessories. So it's a lot of just kind of like interesting new mechanics and stuff like that. I will say this. So they say there are 2 mini games. There's really only one. They say there's billiards, which is just like having another social event. Darts is not fucking around. Darts is the most active minigame I've ever seen in a Persona game in my life. Like, for Persona minigames, like, what is the most in-depth one you always think of? Like, for me, fishing is about as crazy as it ever gets.
Yeah, I guess fishing.
Okay, get this shit. The way you play darts is you have a cursor that's like a really thin oval. You use the 6-axis on the DualShock 4 to line up that oval for where you want the dart to go. When the oval is locked in place, you hold R2, and a dot will start bouncing around like a fucking Microsoft DVD like screensaver. And the way you throw the dart is while holding R2, you bend your wrist backwards and you flick it like a dart.
What?
And it's not flick it, and once you start moving it, the dart stops. It's like an actual dart where you have to guess by the time you finish that flicking motion where that dart is going to land from where the dot was bouncing. It's like very, very fucking in-depth to a point that I was not expecting it to be as fun as it is, but it's really good. And once you mess around with the darts actually have a separate leveling up system of you can level up your partner's baton passes. So did you notice when you were doing baton passes how there were new bonuses this time? It was like damage plus with SP, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you can rank those up to have like, oh, every time you do baton pass, it does even more damage. Oh, now every time you do a baton pass, you get free SP. Ooh, every time you do this now, you get free status ailment or like free health. It's really in-depth and really, really cool. Also, we didn't even get into other crazy things that you haven't even got to. Personas have traits now, and when you're fusing personas, you can also, along with giving them skills that they've inherited, you can inherit traits that are sometimes exclusive to those personas. And those traits also sometimes have like exclusive things. So many things to still talk about with Royal. So we are very, very not far from covering everything. But wanted to throw that out there. But yeah, darts. Do not sleep on darts. Darts is very crazy and very optional, but super fun. Oh, also, I will say this as a little shout out to darts. Darts is still fun because even if you fucking suck at it, you can still level up by losing. Like, let's say if you're playing against Akechi in darts, and you just fucking lose so bad and Akechi wins, Akechi's going to be like, holy shit, I feel great, I just won. So he's going to give himself more level up points quicker to it. It's not just, hey, beat the shit out of me and then I'm going to level up. It's like about, hey, we're both having a good time and I whooped your ass so I feel great and now I'm going to level up even more.
Nice.
So yes, very, very surprising about how fun that is. Next question comes from Matthew Borenfiend. I'm so sorry, that was a bad one. He says, hi there, I put 2 playthroughs into Persona 5 originally. Is the day-to-day life any different? In other words, are there more events happening besides Kichijoji and New Confidants? Waffles, I'll let you go with this and then kind of give my shorter 2-letter answer.
I'm sorry, I'm like a fucking goldfish.
Do you feel the day-to-day is very different from what you've experienced so far with your social life in the game?
Well, I do feel a little bit of the increased like ability to do things at night, definitely. Now, I'm not allowed to go out at night yet, but yeah.
You'll get there. You'll get there one day.
Yeah. But yeah, I appreciate being able to do the one more thing. But other than that, it feels kind of the same.
Spoilers, it is. It is very much the same. And especially if you've played the game as recently as I have, it's going to stick out a lot more like a sore thumb when those moments even aren't voiced and stuff like that. The only saving grace is, like Waffles mentioned, the extra amount of time to do stuff as well as just how fast everything is. Like a good example is before I beat Madarame, I had already read through 10 books.
Damn.
And finished 5 DVDs. Along with having everyone up to as max of a social link as I could.
Huh.
So it actually is really funny, like having that one extra bit of time at night has made the game a whole lot less stressful. Because you know some people, like when they're getting into Persona for the first time, there's that initial stress of, fuck, hold on, should I see him today or should I see her today? Like that, like worry of like, hey, there's a ticking time, like you can't do everything in time unless you're fucking playing with a 100% guide. This is the first game that I've obviously not had a 100% guide available to me, and I don't normally play that way with like a first guide through, but that extra day has made it so much less stressful, and I really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Next question comes from Matthew Patterson, who says, do you think a quick skip option to the new content would help, and how it would be implemented? I know Waffles and I haven't really gotten into this, so I'm just going to kind of say this. Everything seems so, like, and I've seen how a lot of it is interwoven, the new content, quote unquote. You could definitely skip to the third semester, similar to how you skip to the answer in FES. I think, though, that it would be so unsatisfying. Like, Waffles, if I threw you into the third semester right now after having not played Persona 5 in 3 years, would you remember, like, half of the relationships of what's going on?
Probably not.
Yeah, so it's kind of one of those things of, like, could you? Yes. Should you? No. It goes back to the weird thing of, like people kind of feel like this game should be DLC, and for how much they're charging, like they also feel like you shouldn't have to play through the whole game again. But the problem is you aren't going to enjoy that new semester of content without having played through that again. So it's a weird kind of like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Torin Rodriguez says, you've probably mentioned this before, but what is the way to get to the third semester? Well, you dingus, I already said in the show, but thank you for reminding me. Alan Martinez says, is Kasumi... Sorry. Does Kasumi use rifles or DMRs? Kasumi uses, like... I'm sure I could look it up at what it is, because we've seen it in the prologue of the game. Kasumi kind of uses like those old like Civil War rifles, like not with a bayonet at the end, but it kind of has like those weird repeaters you'd see like almost in like the old Western days. Because like Waffles, how would you describe it? It's like those like it's like those rifles that you shoot it, and the way you reload it is you like have to like swing the trigger. Like the trigger has like a loop around it.
Oh god, I honestly didn't even notice the gun. I think I was just pretty girl.
Pretty girl, oh my god. Persona 5 Royal Kasumi gun. Yeah, because I don't know the name of this, and I'm not really a gun nut, but I do love how the guns look. Oh, here we go. It is a lever action pistol. There we go. Because it's not like a full-length gun like a normal rifle. So I at least appreciate that that's kind of new and different. By the way, did you know that I didn't know this until I actually beat Persona 5? What kind of gun does Akechi use?
Is it just like a normal revolver?
That's what I thought. It's a laser gun.
What?
Yes! His guns are fucking space guns. Look, if you buy guns for him, his guns are like fucking McDonald's Happy Meals toys.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. I have to say this because I don't want to spoil it, because they are actually really, really funny. Waffles, did you ever do any of the social events with Elizabeth or Margaret in Persona 3 and 4?
I think I did them with.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, you
remember.
actually never could do them with Margaret. It was only with Marie, right?
I haven't done Golden, so
I'm gonna pretend I didn't hear that. But what did you think about with Elizabeth?
I thought it was cute. The
Okay, well, fucking
one.
hold on to your ass because you can take the twins, the Warden twins, on basically dates. They're just like taking them around town to like fun little like experiments and stuff. That shit is some Elizabeth level comedy and is so funny.
Oh
All I
my
will
god.
say for the first one is this: they go to Big Bang Burger with Joker for the first time. And let me just tell you, one of them is not a big fan of pickles, and it's very funny. Which I actually really appreciate because I like the dynamic of the twin wardens, but I feel because they were always in the Velvet Room, they never really felt like a force that kind of interacted with you in the world. And I know that's obviously like the point where like you don't see them, but I really appreciated that. And also even little things like they'll start calling you on your phone, which is nice. Oh yeah, I forgot to ask you. There is one thing because I did shit on the confidants as being very much the same. But did you notice now, whenever you do a confidants, like whenever you hang out with a confidant, there is a follow-up moment when you are going home and they call you.
Yeah.
That is such a nice touch. Like, obviously, it'd be great if like that was also voiced, but that's great because that's like a little once more chance to be like, hey, do you want like a point or two extra? And it's just kind of cute because as someone who has a really needy Asian wife who calls me every time and checks up on me every 30 minutes, I appreciate the game being like, hey, do you want that in your confidants? And I'm not even kidding. I love that as my wife will fucking check up on me all the time, and I've always wanted that in a significant other. So having confidants do that, I just find hilarious because that is what my life is like.
Hmm.
So like, how did you feel about having the confidants like check up on you on your way home?
I was just like, oh, Takemi's call me. I like this.
It's like it's really cute when it's someone you like, or if it's like your like bro time, but like it's a whole lot less cute when it's like the fucking politician and he's like, how you doing after my speech? Like, let me go to sleep. You're not the
That's
hot
kind of
goth
weird.
You're not the hot goth doctor. You're fucking go to bed, Bernie Sanders. I need to go to sleep.
Oh my god. Uh,
Do you think when they were making the politician in Persona 5 that they were aware of how much he's basically just a not popular Bernie Sanders?
confession.
You,
I did not get very far in his link.
would you like to know the truth about your confession? Most people don't. He actually has a really cool confidant thing that
That's what I heard.
it levels up pretty fast because his is like, especially in Royal, it's just every Sunday. So if you dedicate like 10 Sundays to him, like you're done with him by like the time the Hawaii trip happens. It's a really like he is a really like satisfying political kind of story. Even if you don't care about politics, it's very like he has a tragic backstory that is very cool. I like it at least.
Hmm.
I'm sure instead you were over at the fucking church giving blowjobs to Hifumi or something.
I do like her.
I'm gonna be
In
real.
fact,
I'm
in
gonna be
fact, I'm
real.
probably gonna date her.
Oh, all right. I'm amazed no one asked us a single waifu question. Do you want to guess who my waifu in Persona 5 was? Because I'm not gonna tell you. I'm like not even like fucking kidding with you. I had no idea until it happened like in December. I made my commitment like super last minute because I was like, fuck, I didn't actually think about who I wanted to date. I had spent all my time hanging out with all the boys in the game, and I was like, oh yeah, there's a trophy for having a girlfriend. I might as well get a girlfriend as fast as I can.
uh, oh god. Uh, Haru?
Ooh, good guess. She was up there. I did Makoto. I really liked Makoto a lot more than I thought I would.
Hmm.
And she's very wholesome too. By the way, shout out to this game for righting a lot of the wrongs that Persona 5 Vanilla does. This game shows you Haru within the first week of the game.
I noticed that. I was like, wait,
Because
Rachel?
think about it. That character doesn't exist until like 3 months into the game.
Yeah.
Like, the best part about that is, like, I found a thread in, like, when Persona 5 came out, because I'd known, like, people had complained about Haru having really bad screen time until her dungeon, but, like, I found multiple threads online that had the same answer. They're like, where's Haru in the rest of the game? Shouldn't, like, someone who was, like, someone, like, who's always on the rooftop or tending to the gardens, like, shouldn't you have run into her by now? And all, like, multiple people all had the same answer of, she exists when the plot says she exists. Like, man, that's so fucked up, because that's so true. And, like, that's a great example of going back, putting in a little bit of a change, and making that character a lot better. Like, just saying she exists helps a lot. And by the way, just because of that, you've heard it here first. Haru for Royal. I'm gonna go for the Haru route. We're gonna see what happens.
Hey.
Who was yours in vanilla? I'm gonna guess Takumi?
Yep.
Okay.
I was like, I can't not date her.
I mean,
like,
you could not date her.
But I couldn't. I could not date her, but I couldn't.
That's true. You gotta get what's yours. Speaking of Haru aficionados, Marcos AC Rentiera says, will the true best girl get more screen time? Did I read your question before going on a rant about Haru being in the game early? Yes, that is why. But by the way, as we're pulling up our final questions from Twitter Waffles, I am gonna have to tell you, bad news. In Persona 5 Scramble, Takumi is not in the game at all.
That's bullshit.
She's on summer vacation, dude. What are you gonna do? She's gotta get her goth tan.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So our last little questions, as I joked about us being done by 9, and we're almost 3 hours into this fucking thing. Our first Twitter question comes from Madigan at Dorcas83. Is there anything more you think that could have been added, not counting the DLC in the game from the start? Waffles, you already have a pretty good idea of what's in there and what's not in there. Is there anything you feel like you would have enjoyed or should have been in Royal after all this time?
Oh god. That's... Yeah, I don't really know.
I'm going to say this, and feel free to steal my answer as well. Fully voiced. All the game. Please have everything voiced next time. That was my song called Please Voice Everything Next Time, Atlus. Because as someone who played Tokyo Mirage Sessions, a 30-plus hour RPG made by Atlus, every single line of dialogue in that game is voiced, even like dumb NPC characters, and it really makes a difference. Final question is a two-parter from @JackusPot. First, I actually don't even know if this happens. Can you pet Morgana in Persona 5? The closest I know of anyone touching Morgana is like Futaba squeezing his face. But does anyone ever just straight up pet Morgana?
I don't know. A lot of the game is a blur in my brain.
Would you pet Morgana?
I don't know.
Are you much of a cat person? I know you're more birds than anything, but...
Oh, I like cats, but I don't know if I would pet a sentient cat who is...
who doesn't identify as a cat.
Who is kind of horny.
Kind of horny?
I'm like, I don't know about petting this cat.
Waffles, are you aware of this recent internet meme trend word of calling people a simp?
Oh, that actually, yeah, I saw somebody use the word, and I was like, what the fuck is that? So I looked it up, and I'm like, oh, well, I learned something new.
I'm not gonna lie, when I first heard people call people simp, I definitely just thought it was shorthand term for a Simpsons character. So, this is just facts. No one can really argue this. Take this to the bank. I tweeted this a couple of weeks ago. Name a bigger simp in the whole Megami Tensei franchise than Morgana. Morgana is just Lady Anne. Lady Anne, I love you. Oh, I love you, Lady Anne.
Oh my god.
My favorite though is
it's already old, and I've only gotten through the first dungeon.
Mm-hmm. Oh my god, yeah, it doesn't get any better. I think I'll at least say this: Morgana is at least consistently pathetic. Morgana only loves On. It would be really annoying if Morgana was that stereotypical how there's I'm the horny one and they just love anyone with a vagina.
Yeah.
If Morgana was a Brock or oh no, he was my favorite example of this stereotype. Who was the monk from Inuyasha?
Oh God, was his name? Was he Makoto?
You know who I'm talking about, though, right?
Yeah, fucking. Oh, I hated that guy. Oh.
Are you saying you didn't want to bear his children?
Oh, that's a specific kind of ick that is not even
fun.
Yeah, when
I think about that, there's probably it's Moroku.
Miroku, okay.
Moroku I have a weird love-hate relationship with because actually as a character, I think he had a really interesting plot in Inuyasha. I just fucking hated his one-hit note joke of would you like to bear my children?
Ugh.
So yeah, I think in the grand scale of things, Brock being in the middle, Moroku being at the very end, Morgana is at least I simp for On and no one else.
Yeah. True.
And considering On is no offense, the most boring girl in that whole fucking game, at least in terms of attractive girls, it's you could have her. No one's going to be fighting for On. It's the only people I think actually who deserve to date On is if I'm being nice, Morgana in human form, I guess, which by the way neither one of us have gotten to, but I cannot wait to see your reaction and my reaction because I have no idea how human Morgana works. But when that happens, I'm very excited for both of us to just fucking probably be weirded out by him. And I don't know about you, but talk about On, I just kind of feel the game always just tries to I don't know, for me it's always been hey, Ryuji and On are just gonna end up together, whether they know it or not. They are the perfect couple. Have you never thought about this?
Well, I can see why they would be
they're always paired up together. They're the two fucking blonde kids in school. They both fucking eat enough food to feed a whole fucking country.
Yeah.
I will say I always laugh at the scene of them at the buffet way harder than I should. Sorry, you were gonna say though?
Oh, I don't know. I think that past chapter 1, they both just kind of were not very cohesively written. I don't know.
I'm surprised you think that. Although I spent a lot of time with Ryuji, so I'd find it a little difficult. I'd say I'd be curious to see if you still think that after playing Royal again, because the game definitely does have a lot of interactions with the two of them, even after their first palace. Yeah. And I'm just a big fan of when characters like to give each other shit for the thing that they're fond of. You're gonna have this moment with Jose in a minute, but I'm gonna spoil a Jose scene for you. Jose gives you an item, and he says, "Here, I found this lucky star. Maybe it'll grant your wish or something." On gets the star first. She's like, "I wish to be able to eat desserts for the rest of my life with 0 calories." And then Ryuji gets it. He says, "I want to have the world's biggest bowl of beef or whatever." And then Ada's like, "That is such a petty wish." And I'm like, "You fucking dumb, you dumbass. You both just asked for food and you don't even fucking realize it." So I will at least say this: out of the new scenes, because I've probably seen, at least in terms of scenes that weren't in the original game, I've seen at least 5, and there have been a lot more interactions with characters who did not interact with each other. Last question. Holy crap, this went on for a long time. Also from Jackus Pot, who says, "Why is he called Joker if he never tells a joke?"
Atlus, explain.
Would you like to know my answer?
What?
And with that, we need to end this episode of Shin Megami Tensei Network before my wife and her confidant Link check up on me. Waffles, thank you for joining us. Thank you for playing this game. Happy late birthday, by the way. You're now, what, 16 years old?
1600 years old.
You were really thinking for a good one on that one, huh? Waffles, where would you like people to find you online? And please let one of them still be Tumblr.
My Tumblr's my Tumblr's got tumbleweed at this point. Like it's a ghost town. You can find me on Twitter at Hito Waffles. Kind of. I should probably get on there more often.
I mean, dude, you have so many different accounts. Like, my favorite question from people who used to talk to you a lot more, like back in 2014 days, is people be like, "So what happened to Waffles?" Because I'm like, "Oh, you don't follow his myriad of other personal ventures he does on the side." If people don't know you play 14, people actually thought you died.
Oh. Hi, I'm alive. I'm sorry.
All right, so this is a weird thing that may also go into either promoting yourself or not. Is do you promote where you play on 14, or do you like to kind of keep your server info private?
I kind of keep it private.
No, that's cool, because I've always been this, the way I've been with MMOs is please anyone play with me, because I never have friends dedicated enough to play it, whereas I know you have your whole fucking server in Discord. So you were on the opposite spectrum of me. So anything besides Twitter though?
Oh fuck. Yeah, I guess I don't really. My social media presence has I'm I don't know. If I was a hermit, a paranoid hermit before, it's double now. So I don't really do much publicly.
You know what we should do? I don't know if this would be a huge pain in the ass. Would it be a huge pain in the butt to sync up your Hito Waffles Twitter to your PS4 again? Because I was gonna say,
I'll think about it.
Because I was gonna say, if you're playing Royal a lot more now, and a good way to use that Twitter more, you could start posting screenshots and videos from Royal.
That's true.
And it wouldn't be on your not safe for work account. That's definitely not Final Fantasy related. Well, I'll let you think on that. Everyone, if you'd like to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter. I am at Torchwood4SP. Besides that, you can follow the podcast Twitter at SMT Network. You can find our YouTube channel by going to YouTube and just searching Shin Megami Tensei Network, or by typing in Spencer Presley. The links will be in the show notes below. Rate and review us on iTunes. That stuff super duper helps. Join the Facebook group by going to facebook.com/group/SMT Network, where we are almost already to 7,000 members, which is really crazy because we just hit 6,000 members. Don't think I'm forgetting anything else too crazy. But yeah, that is the podcast. Waffles, thank you for coming on. Thank you for getting royal with me. I cannot tell you how much fun this was. Hopefully, once both of us are either farther in the game, or if you have beaten the game, we can get you back on here to tell us how much you enjoyed stroking Human Morgana's beard.
Ah!
Just imagine Human Morgana has just as much hair as regular Cat Morgana, but just with the physique of a human man.
I don't like that.
Who would you want to voice Human Morgana? Because we actually don't know who voices him.
Shit. I don't. Oh god, I don't even.
Can I be honest?
Who?
Who's the voice actor for Gladiolus?
I don't know his name.
I want Gladiolus's voice actor to just be anime boy Morgana.
Oh my god.
Just imagine that face. Yeah. You like that, Joker?
No, I don't.
Lady Anne.
No.
Want to know how I got these scars? You're going to have to download episode Morgana.
Atlus, if you're listening and you did this, patch it out.
Do you want to pay $4.99 to play episode Morgana to find out how he got these two scars?
No.
right, everybody. Before we go, we're gonna ask Waffles a really hard and uncomfortable question. Are you ready for it, Waffles?
Uh-oh.
If you know the answer, you have to answer it honestly. If you don't know, you have to say your most awkward goodbye.
Okay.
All right. Waffles, what did you think of the ending to episode Arden?
Hey, so, funny you should ask.
Uh-huh.
I haven't played it yet.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye!
She's got legs. Oh man! Okay, this is bloopers. This is bloopers because we didn't talk about it because it's like it's a totally separate mode. Oh my god, dude! We didn't talk about the Thieves' Den, which I think you might actually be able to do, or can you not do that yet?
Oh, I was confused by it.
It's very
like,
confusing because
the thing.
yeah. Have you dicked around with it at all?
No, I looked at it and I was like, is this just telling me anonymously what other people are doing?
Okay, no, it
site?
isn't. It's really confusing, but also really fucking cool. Do you remember PlayStation Home from PS3?
No.
Okay, so PlayStation Home was like this virtual hub where you could like go around, buy things, place furniture, listen to music, look at like videos and stuff, and do fucking goofy shit with different avatars. The Thieves' Den is PlayStation Home for Persona 5 Royal. And it's all single player, which is a real shame because like it feels like it was meant to be a multiplayer hub where people ran around and then Atlus went, "Oh shit, how much is a multiplayer server? No, thank you." But it's really cool. You can listen to the entire soundtrack of both games. Like obviously you have to unlock it the further you play. There is art from like the game's cover as well as concept art, and the scans are fucking incredibly high. Like they've got to be like over 1000 DPI level high. Like you can zoom in crazy close to it and it is not pixelated at all in like 4K.
Huh.
So like you can unlock concept art, posters, movies. The only like stupid little complaint I found is there's one video clip for, do you remember the Persona 5 OVA that came out the same day as the release in Japan in 2016, the Daybreakers special?
Vaguely, yeah.
Yeah, they have about 30 seconds of that, just a random unsubtitled clip of that in Japanese only. It's really random, but like they just have all the videos from the game, all the animated cutscenes, like all the awakenings and stuff. You can place items, like you can have like, oh, here's here is everyone hanging out at the cafe, or here is a statue of like the boss fight, or here's I'm gonna summon like my persona and have him like dangle from the ceiling like a big fucking statue. And to make it all even cooler, there's two little bits. This is like the dumb one, and then there's the really really cool one. I'll give you the cool one first. There is a card game exclusive to this game that you can use to earn more points. So basically you earn points to buy like music, art, and just like how you unlock stuff to fill out the Thieves' Den, it's all optional. Like you never have to do anything with it. It's just basically like a bonus menu, but you just can walk around it. So they made a whole fucking card game, like a brand new in-universe like card game for it, and it is really really cool. And if that wasn't enough, this whole area, you can walk around it and run around it as any Phantom Thief, and I mean any Phantom Thief in their in-game model with any costume. And this means you can walk around as Ryuji and have a great fucking time in his fucking no mo rules fucking shirt. You can run around as Morgana as a real ass cat too. Like it lets you use all of these models that I didn't even know were like animated in the game. And it's just really fucking cool to just like hang around and like listen to music, look at art, and it's like such a cool little bonus feature thing, but it's so easy to forget because it's just like a thing you have to get out of the game to do.
Oh, okay. I think I was thinking of something different.
Yeah, so highly, highly, highly recommend checking that out. It's accessible after a ways of playing through the game. So it's menu item number 10. It's called Thieves' Den, and there's always a little sack of coins next to it. So you can always jump to it, and it'll just save wherever you are in the game. Or you can access it directly from the main menu, but there's almost no reason to ever get out of playing the game.
Okay, so I guess maybe I was thinking of the wrong thing then.
That's okay.
Whatever this assist thing is.
Oh yeah, like when
that's
the Thieves Guild. When you press press the touchpad and you can see, hey, how many people did this today? So it'll be like, did you guys do social stuff? Did you go to the palaces? Did you go to mementos?
Okay.
Yeah, so you should be just about or already and just haven't noticed it. No, because it's after the Kamoshida thing. So basically, once you're done with mementos, Jose will unlock that for you, and you'll be all good. But yeah, when you check out the Thieves' Den, definitely let me know what you think, because that's a really fun little mode that a lot of people are going to forget.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be really good for photo mode shit, too. And that game knows it, because you can hide the HUD.
Nice.
Alright, well that's our bloopers for this episode. I'm glad I remembered the Thieves' Den. I would have been really mad if I didn't talk about that, because that was one of my things that I'm like, no review talked about this. This is such a cool thing, because like Atlus never has like fucking unlockable bonus shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like the closest, I mean, have we ever had a game that had even a movie player?
Well, Ultimax did.
Yeah, but that wasn't made by Atlus. That was published by Atlus.
That's true.
Remember,
True.
all of Atlus's games' best features usually come from other developers.